Before we begin, the name is placed on the top right side of the screen. The noble Snow Leopard clan, known for their freezing abilities, houses the esteemed Neshchen family. Among them, the eldest daughter, Lena, is blessed with exceptional talents. Her overwhelming power and skill make her the ideal heir, and everyone holds high expectations for her to lead the family. She is regarded as the perfect successor. If only she hadn't fallen in love with Karthus, the heir of the Asterian family, a clan that has been hostile to the Neshchens for thousands of years. Despite her family's opposition, Lena chooses to follow her love for Karthus. However, this choice leads to a devastating outcome. She loses her life while giving birth to their child. Later, a maid approaches the Neshchen family's patriarch, Zender Neshchen, with Lena's child, a frail hybrid born with great difficulty and unable to manifest any abilities. Years pass and the child, named Thiel, turns 7. By then, it becomes apparent that abilities usually manifest within the first few years of life. Zender, bitter and ashamed, declares that she will never develop powers and deems her a useless insect. "This is giving me a headache. If Thiel doesn't kill Zender, I'm coming in with my pookies, ready to bonk him into next week." Enraged and humiliated, Zender confines his granddaughter to the attic, labeling her as the family's shame. From then on, the abuse and neglect inflicted by Zender and the rest of the family are relentless, making it nearly impossible for the child to survive. Nevertheless, enduring the harshest conditions with her fragile body, the young girl barely clings to life. One day, Zender catches Thiel stealing bread meant to be discarded. Furious, he strikes her with the bread, calling her a filthy insect. Thiel apologizes, explaining that she was hungry, but her words only fuel his anger. He grabs her, enraged that she dared talk back, and drags her to the terrace. Opening the gate, Zender sneers, claiming her life has been so comfortable that she has forgotten her place. He forces her onto the railing and slams the door shut, locking her outside in the heavy snow. Thiel, shivering and desperate, bangs on the door, pleading with her grandfather to let her in. She apologizes repeatedly, but her cries go unanswered. Suddenly, a young woman enters the room, her sharp gaze fixed on Thiel as she mocks she is still here. It is Cornelia, the current heir to the Neshchen family. Thiel calls out to her aunt, but Cornelia's response is cold. She scolds Thiel, questioning how she dares to address her as aunt, as if forgetting her place. Thiel falls silent, speechless at the cruelty. Cornelia turns to Zender and remarks that he was supposed to accompany Lowen, her daughter, for dress fittings. She adds that she has been waiting eagerly for him. Zender dismisses her concerns, blaming the delay on the damned hybrid, but promises to leave soon and asks Cornelia to inform Lowen. Lowen suddenly bursts into the room. She is Cornelia's daughter and Thiel's cousin, calling for her grandfather. Her grandfather points that he was just about to come to her. Lowen rushes to her grandfather, remarking he didn't come, so she is here to escort him herself. Zender picks her up and praises her as a good child. He promises they will leave immediately. Watching this, Thiel's heart aches. She calls out to Cornelia again, but quickly corrects herself, addressing her as Lady Cornelia. Desperate, Thiel begs Cornelia to save her, explaining that it is unbearably cold outside. Cornelia mocks her, laughing at the absurdity of a snow leopard feeling cold. Narrowing her eyes, Cornelia sneers. Is it because she is a hybrid, mixed with a black leopard? Her disdain is evident as she slams the door shut, remarking that Thiel reminds her of Lena, and that disgusts her. Left alone in the freezing cold, Thiel collapses on the floor. She curls up, trembling as the memories of her family's cruelty flood her mind. She wonders if things would have been different if her mother were alive, or if there is a place where she truly belongs. She was able to hear laughter and wanted to go to a place where she could experience love, warmth, and the embrace of a family. This was what she longed for and wanted to feel it even for once. Suddenly, something jolts her awake, and she finds herself in the attic. Confused, Thiel looks around, questioning how she got there. Moments ago, she had been on the balcony. A sharp pain in her body confirms a fresh wound, solidifying that it wasn't just a dream. As she gazes into a nearby mirror, she notices a scar on her forehead from when Lowen pushed her down the stairs a month ago. To her, it feels as though it just happened yesterday. Puzzled, Thiel wonders if she has somehow gone back in time. But how? Just then, a golden flash emanates from her hands. Startled, she stares at them, dismissing the glow as a hallucination. She decides it's not the time to dwell on it. If she truly has returned to the past, she must escape before Zender tortures her again. However, the grim reality sets in. She has nowhere to go. Wandering outside would mean freezing to death. She wishes desperately for someone to help her. Staring at her reflection in the mirror, her eyes widen as she notices gold in her golden eyes. Golden eyes, the mark of the Black Leopard clan, the Asterian family. The realization strikes her. If she goes to her father's clan, perhaps they might accept her. Thiel hears a voice from the outside and wonders what it could be. It is really noisy. She hears someone saying to send someone to the guest room and another asking what is needed for the banquet. Suddenly, Thiel remembers the time when Lowen became a candidate for Crown Princess. To be precise, all the girls around the Crown Prince's age had become candidates for the position of Crown Princess. That's why the palace had sent the Emperor's direct subordinate to observe Lowen, one of the candidates. The Nestian family had been busy preparing to welcome the guests for a while. Thiel believes it is the perfect timing. Everyone will be too busy paying attention to Lowen to come near the attic. The same goes for her grandfather and the maid. Thiel ponders that while the palace guests are here, she can escape to Asterion. Luckily, Thiel still has some bread left. She decides to hide it in her clothes and take it with her. Suddenly, a mouse comes near her bread. She screams, "No," and quickly takes the bread, stating that she needs it more. She steps back and, in her panic, transforms into a cat, scaring the mouse away. The mouse scurries off and Thiel wraps herself tightly in a blanket. She knows she must endure this situation for a while. Until the guests arrive, she decides to conserve her strength. However, a worry nags at her. What if, just as her grandfather said, her father truly hates her? She remembers her grandfather telling her that if the head of the Black Leopard family sees her, they will kill her immediately, as that family despises her terribly. Thiel ponders if this is true. She thinks about how her mother died and how she, a hybrid born neither this nor that, seems to have no place in the world. She knows that if she cannot find acceptance in Asterion, there is no place for her. She hides her face in her hands, wondering if promising to stay out of sight would make them accept her. She plans to eat very little and live as if she doesn't exist, thinking she can survive on just a piece of bread every 2 days. All her pain and their countless excuses weigh on her. 2 days later, Thiel finally opens the attic door. It seems everyone is asleep. Since everyone had been busy welcoming the palace guests during the day, they won't wake up easily. Thiel decides her first stop will be her grandfather's office to take something valuable. She plans to use it to ask the coachman to take her to the Asterion family. When she reaches the office, she finds, as expected, that the door is unlocked. Since Lowen often comes and goes, Zender does not bother locking it. Thiel carefully opens a drawer and finds some coins that should easily cover the carriage fare. As she is about to close the drawer, her attention is caught by a necklace. She picks it up and opens it, revealing a portrait of her mother, the one Zender often looks at. Seeing her mother's face makes Thiel sad. She decides to take the necklace with her too. Since she doesn't plan to return, she wants to remember her mother's face. Luckily, it seems like she hasn't woken anyone up yet. All she needs to do now is get outside. Suddenly, someone calls out, "Miss Lowen." Lowen's nanny, Jera, mistakes her for Lowen and scolds her for wandering around so late at night. As Jera approaches, she realizes it is not Lowen and yells at Thiel, demanding to know why she is here and ordering her to return to her room. Thiel panics and starts running. Jera shouts at her to come back, but Thiel is fast, especially for someone so small. "Run, Kili, run. You're doing amazing, baby. Good job." Thiel's heart races as she wonders where she should go. It seems like people have noticed her, and now everyone is running after her. She sprints outside, but even the butlers are chasing her. In desperation, she enters the annex where the palace guests are staying. The staff hesitate, knowing that making a scene here could cause problems. They decide to inform the head of the family instead. Meanwhile, Thiel runs through the unfamiliar annex, her breath coming in sharp bursts. She doesn't know the layout, and all the doors she tries seem to be locked. Fear grips her as she whispers desperate pleads for someone to help her. Suddenly, a figure steps out from the shadows behind her and grabs her arm, causing her to stumble and fall to the ground. She looks up to see a boy bent over her. His expression sharpens as he demands who she is to dare enter his quarters at this hour. Thiel stutters as the boy questions her. Sobbing, she pleads with him to save her. The boy ponders who she could be, as there should only be one girl in the Nestian family. Her shabby appearance and golden eyes, rather than blue, confirm she isn't Lowen. Firmly, the boy tells her to stop crying and demands she explain who she is. If she refuses, he threatens to throw her out immediately. Reluctantly, Thiel replies that she is Thiel Nestian, a snow leopard, and that she needs to escape. Suddenly, they hear approaching footsteps, making the boy wonder who could be coming now. He questions whether she was being chased. He orders her to follow him and asks if she can transform into her beast form. Inside his room, the boy quickly instructs Thiel to hide under the bed. She hurriedly obeys but leaves her tail sticking out. Irritated by her clumsiness, the boy tucks her tail under the bed as well. Moments later, a man enters the room, apologizing for his rudeness. The man is Cedric, the Emperor's aide. The boy questions why Cedric has come so late. Cedric explains that a maid has run away from the mansion. He adds that she wasn't in her right mind. They were taking care of her, but she escaped, and staff saw her running into the guest house. The boy considers the situation. A white-furred snow leopard, a clear symbol of her identity, had been out in the open, yet they were referring to her as a servant. Calmly, he tells Cedric he has never seen her before. Sitting on the bed, he commands Cedric let them search the area if needed but to exclude his room and Cedric's. Cedric complies, promising to relay the order and wishing the boy a good night. As he leaves, the boy reflects on his current situation. He's undercover and can't reveal his true identity. But now he's entangled in this mess, all because the Emperor insisted he personally verify the bride candidates. After ensuring Cedric has gone, the boy prompts Thiel to come out from under the bed. She hesitantly emerges, still in her beast form. The boy questions why she's running and why they're calling her a servant. Thiel studies him carefully, sensing his high status. She wonders if someone this remarkable would truly help her. Dismissing the thought, she decides it doesn't matter. Anyone will do right now. Transforming back into her human form, Thiel explains that she has been locked away since birth. Her grandfather considers her a disgrace to the family. She wasn't born with any special abilities, and her appearance isn't extraordinary either. The boy concludes that she used the chaos in the mansion caused by the palace guests to escape. Thiel admits this is true. The boy then asks what she plans to do once she leaves the mansion. Thiel replies that she has some money and plans to take a carriage to the Asterian family. Confused, the boy asks why she would go there if she's a snow leopard. Thiel explains that her father is a snow leopard. Hearing this, the boy looks at her golden eyes again and realizes why they seem familiar. Running a hand through his hair, he comments that he understands what she's trying to do, but warns her that with so little money, she won't even make it out of Neshtian territory. Thiel's heart sinks as she realizes he's right. She thought her savings would be enough. She asks in despair, what should she do when she doesn't even have more money? The boy surprises her by offering to take her to Asterion himself. Thiel stares at him in disbelief, questions if he is being serious. He confirms it, prompting her to thank him repeatedly, promising to repay him soon. He sighs and assures her it isn't necessary. Thiel, however, is convinced that he is her savior. She finally asks for his name, wondering how she should address him. He introduces himself as Iandros Krashen, adding that she can call him Ian. Lost in her thoughts about his name, she barely notices when Ian tells her to rest. He warns her that if she doesn't wake up tomorrow, he won't take her with him. Startled, Thiel asks what would happen if someone saw her while she's sleeping. Ian reassures her that no one will enter his room. When she still hesitates, Ian raises his hand midair, creating a hole with his powers. Thiel stares in awe, finding it mesmerizing, like a white void. Ian explains that it's his special ability, a dimensional space that only he can open and close. He urges her to transform into her snow leopard form and go inside. Thiel hesitates, but Ian reassures her. As long as he is alive, she won't get lost in there. What if you die? We don't want our little protagonist to be stuck wandering in your dimension. Do you even have Wi-Fi there? Knowing she has no better option, she transforms and enters the void. Ian remarks that he'll retrieve her as soon as it's safe. Inside, Thiel marvels at her surroundings. The place looks completely ruined, almost like an alternate world. She reaches out to touch a stuffed toy, but it vanishes on contact, startling her. Determined not to cause more damage, Thiel decides to be cautious. Her eyes land on a cushion that seems new, sparkling with an unexplainable aura. Carefully, she pokes it, relieved when it doesn't disappear. Excited, she climbs onto it. The cushion is incredibly soft, and she feels a warmth she hasn't known before. Curled up on the cushion, Thiel thinks wistfully of her father. She wishes he could be as gentle and kind as Ian. If her father doesn't treat her right, I'm personally showing up to make that man bald, shiny as a bowling ball. Or the next morning, Zender apologizes to Cedric for causing a disturbance the previous night. He questions whether Cedric has a good impression of Neshtian or if they were comfortable. However, Cedric responds that thanks to their hospitality, they rested well and the dinner was excellent too. Zender notices there is no mention of Lowen, not even a polite inquiry, and his worry deepens. He knows things went awry because of the rampage, and he feels frustrated that of all times, she chose now to act up when she had been as quiet as a mouse all this time. Shamelessly, Zender asks if they would like to meet Lowen once more before they leave. Cedric loudly sets his tea on the table and coldly replies, no. He stands up, stating that it's a long journey and they must get going now. Cedric then adds that until they meet again, if Zender visits the capital, he will host him. Zender rises, trying to say something, but Lowen suddenly comes into the room, calling out to her grandfather. Zender tells her not to come in yet, but she questions if the guests are leaving. Beaming, Zender asks Lowen if the guests have said they will look favorably upon her. Cedric bluntly responds, saying it was nice meeting her and offering a formal, "May the blessing occasion be with you." The rejection is smooth and clear. Zender grits his teeth, understanding that this means they don't intend to consider Lowen as a candidate at all. Lowen, oblivious, questions Cedric, asking if they will meet again or when he will visit the mansion next. Zender tries to stop her, but Lowen insists she wants to see the capital too and asks if she can follow them. Ayan, clearly annoyed, watches the exchange in silence. Cedric, avoiding her questions, states firmly that they will be going now. Zender is seething. He blames the failure of this important meeting, which took months to prepare, on the half-breed rampage that ruined everything. He promises to himself that once he catches Thiel, he won't let her go this time. At the carriage, they bless the house of Neshchen. Zender offers his wishes, but Ayan shuts the carriage door in his face, leaving Zender to fume about how insolent the servant is. "You old hag, does he really look like a servant to you, or is your eyesight just as bad as your judgment?" Ayan remarks on Zender's long tongue, and Cedric warns Ayan to mind how he speaks to the head of the Neshchen family. Ayan sighs, stating that this is precisely why he dislikes child marriages. Cedric, calling Ayan Your Highness, hints at the gravity of the situation. Ayan replies he is aware it's crucial for him to find a mate and perform the marking as soon as possible. His extraordinarily large and unstable power is too much for his body to handle, and to prevent a future rampage, the power must be shared with a mate through the marking. However, families aiming to gain power through producing the crown princess are closely watching the situation, exhausting Ayan even further. Cedric observes that Zender appeared uneasy about something and wonders if it's related to the incident at dawn. This thought makes Ayan recall Thiel. He opens his white dimension hole and pulls Thiel out, shocking Cedric, who questions the situation. Cedric takes off his glasses, wipes them, and wonders if he is dreaming. Meanwhile, Ayan pats Thiel and asks if she is all right or scared. Ayan then commands Cedric that they will head to the Asterian family next. Cedric, curious, asks what business they have there, and Ayan explains they need to send the child to Asterian. Ayan encourages Thiel to explain herself to Cedric. Transforming back into her human form, Thiel introduces herself as Thiel Neshchen, and adds that she is going to Asterian to meet her father. Cedric, confused, asks about her father. Ayan directs Cedric to look at Thiel's eyes. Noticing her golden eyes, Cedric realizes the truth. He recalls the Black Panther and Snow Leopard lineage, Lena and Karthus, who had defied family opposition to build a harmonious family. They had twin sons, but while pregnant with her third child, Lena disappeared. Soon after, the Neshchens reported Lena's death, and Asterian had to hold a funeral without Lena's body. Unaware of the fate of her third child, Cedric panics, realizing Thiel may be the child thought to have died. Ayan orders the carriage to run as fast as possible, stating there are stops they need to make before arriving at Asterian Castle 3 days later. Upon arrival, the Asterian family's butler, Pardon, greets them and wishes the blessing of Krajan upon Yan. The butler bows, recognizing Ayan as the crown prince. Ayan immediately requests to see the head of the Asterian family, but Pardon informs him the master is currently out and asks if it's an urgent matter. Ayan confirms it is and insists on seeing him right away. Cedric helps Thiel out of the carriage, and Pardon is astonished to see her with them. Ayan instructs Pardon to inform the master they believe they have found the youngest daughter of the Asterian family. Thiel enters the mansion. It is massive, far larger than she ever imagined, twice the size of Neshchen even. She marvels at its grandeur but feels uneasy. Living in a place like this feels unimaginable. Her father must be terrifying, she thinks, and worries whether she'll even be able to meet his eyes. Cedric reassures her, saying they will give her a grand welcome here in Asterian. Ayan agrees, adding that it's a shame they couldn't prepare more for her first visit. Ayan's words feel kind, but Thiel cannot help but think that the princess-like dress she wears is far too extravagant for her. She is certain her father will hate her, yet the magnificent carriage she rode, the beautiful clothes, and the warmth she felt along the way, all these things are new to her, things she's never experienced before. It feels wonderful, and she wonders if she and Ian will ever meet again after today. When they reach the lounge, Ian encourages Thiel to sit. She insists she is fine standing, but Ian picks her up and sets her down firmly, pointing out that everyone else is sitting, so it would look strange if she were the only one standing. "My love, do you really think she likes standing? She's just not used to this kindness. No, I'm not crying, you err." As she settles, a maid enters with a trolley laden with desserts. Thiel's eyes light up with amusement. She had refused to eat anything during the journey, and had only nibbled on the bread she had brought from Neshchen. Ian urges her to eat, assuring her that everything here is for her, but Thiel hesitates, worried that accepting such hospitality would make her seem shameless. Ian doesn't wait for her to decide. He picks up some food and shoves it into her mouth. Thiel takes a bite and becomes visibly excited. Ian laughs, asking if it's really that good. She nods eagerly, saying it's delicious. Suddenly, Karthus enters the lounge. Cedric is the first to greet him, and Thiel freezes. She knows immediately that this is her father. Anxiety grips her. What should she do? Should she read him first? Her grandfather's words echo in her mind. He had called her father a fool who didn't know his place, a man without limits, utterly arrogant. Worse, he had said that because she shares his blood, she must be just as pathetic as he is. Her grandfather's warning rings clear. If her father ever saw her, he would kill her. A shiver runs down her spine. Karthus walks toward her, about to say something, but stops. Thiel assumes he is angry. She debates whether she should beg for her life, but then recalls the kindness Ian and Cedric showed her. She cannot give up. She must do something. After a moment of silence, Thiel summons her courage. She tells Karthus that her mother's name is Lena, and presents a necklace she stole from her grandfather's drawer. Karthus takes it, recognizing it as Lena's. Thiel then begs him to let her stay. She promises she will eat little, sleep in the barn or the warehouse, and live as though she doesn't exist. Anything, as long as she can stay. The words warehouse and barn make Karthus' eyes widen with anger. He wonders what kind of life they must have subjected this young child to. When he reaches for her, Thiel flinches instinctively, a clear trauma response. Karthus halts, concerned. Finally, he speaks, confirming her name. Thiel. He then tells her she will have to wait, as he needs to discuss something with his guests. Turning to the maid, he orders her to take Thiel to the guest room, give her a warm blanket, and ensure she has a chance to rest. The maid bows and happily asks Thiel to follow her. Before leaving, Thiel glances back at her father, who stands silently, watching her. In the guest room, Thiel feels a deep sadness. Karthus hadn't said she could stay. She worries about what to do next. With no money, she can't take the carriage back, and she doesn't think she can survive outside. Looking at the dress she wears, she contemplates selling it. But it was the first gift she had received from Ian, and the thought of parting with it pains her. The maid returns, bringing snacks, but grows concerned when she sees Thiel crying. The second maid enters, questioning if something is wrong and suggesting they take Thiel back to her father. Thiel dismisses the idea. The maid lovingly urges Thiel to eat, saying food will give her strength while the guests are still talking. She encourages her to eat slowly and comfortably. Thiel looks at the food, thinking about how, if she is kicked out of the mansion, she won't know when she will get warm food again. Deciding she should at least fill her stomach for the next 2 days, she begins eating as much as she can. Meanwhile, Ian explains to Karthus that Thiel had been running away and was in a terrible state. She was terrified but said she wanted to find her father, a member of the Asterian family. Karthus listens and ponders that instead of blaming him for not being able to find her and seeing her in such a frightened state, he wonders how she managed to survive in Neshchen. Cedric adds that Thiel kept glancing nervously during the carriage ride and refused the meal they prepared. Ian mentions noticing wounds on her body and says the people of Neshchen referred to her as a mad maid. What might have happened to Thiel? Karthus has an idea about that. The two families of the leopard tribe, Neshchen's snow leopards and Asterian's black leopards, have a long history. The tribe's leader is always the one with the strongest abilities. For 6 generations, Asterian has held that title, while Neshchen has fallen into decline, now a mere facade of its former glory. Lena, born into the Neshchen family, had been their only hope due to her remarkable abilities, surpassing even Asterian. However, she rejected the position of head of the family and chose to marry Karthus instead. Currently, Cornelia, Neshchen's next in line, lacks the qualities needed to lead. It is clear that the next leader will come from Mysterian. To prevent this, Neshchen likely hid Lena's child and to raise in the hope that she might be able to inherit her mother's abilities using that poor child in the adult's political struggles. The maid suddenly bursts into the room, interrupting the conversation. States that the young lady the guest brought. Karthus turns to her, worried if there's something wrong with the child. Karthus bursts into the guest room, the food scattered everywhere. Thiel cries in the maid's arms, begging repeatedly, saying she is wrong, sorry, and has made a mistake, before collapsing fully into the maid's embrace. Karthus commands the maids to change her into comfortable clothes, to get her to rest, and call the physician immediately. The maids carry Thiel away, and as her boots brush against Karthus's hand, he pauses, standing still as he surveys the chaos in the room. He looks at the mess, unsure of what has just happened. He questions the maid in the room, demanding to know what transpired. The maid explains that Thiel ate a snack but vomited shortly after, as though her stomach couldn't handle the sudden intake of food. She adds that even while resting in the guest room, Thiel kept looking around nervously, completely on edge. The maid wonders aloud what kind of experience Thiel must have gone through to behave like this. Karthus turns to Cade and demands to know Thiel's condition. Cade, the Asterian family physician, informs him that Thiel is utterly malnourished and that her growth rate is far behind other children her age. Cade explains that young beast folk often fall into sudden sleep if they are sleep-deprived, and reassures Karthus that her current sleeping state is nothing to worry about. Karthus touches the blanket draped over her, feeling a sense of relief. He sits in the chair beside her and reflects, regretting that he still hasn't told her she can stay here, that she can have whatever she needs, and that there is nothing to fear. This is her home now. He wishes he had told her that earlier. Cedric questions Karthus about whether he will conduct a paternity test, citing formalities. Karthus responds that he will, as they need documents proving paternity to officially register the child in the Asterian family records. Taking a small piece of Thiel's hair, he hands it to Cade and instructs him to run the test through the temple, noting that the temple already has his DNA sample. Cade nods and complies. Karthus reflects on how he had always believed he would find his child one day, which is why he entrusted the temple with his DNA in advance. Now he feels grateful that he never gave up hope. Karthus decides to leave where they might wake Thiel. Cedric turns to Ian, suggesting they also leave for the palace since their schedule is already delayed. Ian reluctantly agrees, expressing regret that he couldn't say goodbye to Thiel but vowing to see her next time. Later, a man calls out to Karthus, demanding to know where the child is. It is Alpheus Evol, the Duke of Asterion, the leader of the Leopard clan, the man who always carries himself with dignity, and the unshakable pillar of the empire. Alpheus, known for his composed demeanor, now stands before Karthus, visibly shaken and disheveled. Pardon reminds Alpheus of his dinner appointment with the emperor, but Alpheus brushes it off, declaring that his granddaughter, whom he thought was dead, has returned. Alpheus rushes to Karthus, demanding to know where Thiel is and whether Karthus is certain she is Lena's child. Karthus informs him that a paternity test has been requested at the temple but confirms his certainty, pointing out that Thiel is a snow leopard with the golden eyes of the Black Panther, hidden away in Neshchen. Alpheus insists on seeing the child immediately, but Karthus tells him she is currently sleeping in the room Olivier used to stay in. He advises Alpheus to look at her quietly before leaving. Alpheus promises to do so. Alpheus approaches the sleeping Thiel and gazes at her tenderly. "Little one," he murmurs, his love for her evident on his face. He thinks about how he didn't even know she existed until now, and how grateful he is to finally see her. When Alpheus steps out, he turns to Karthus, demanding to know what happened and why Neshchen take that child and hid the child from them. Karthus explains that Neshchen likely didn't want to give her up because she is Lena's child. He can tell that she had a hard time there. He then recounts the entire story of how the prince found her and brought her back to them. Meanwhile, Thiel dreams of people calling her worthless, a shame to Neshchen, mocking her for not manifesting powers and for being born by devouring her mother. She tries to escape these voices in her dream, pleading that she was wrong and begging them not to hate her. As a hand reaches out to grab her, she wakes up abruptly, sweating and trembling. Thiel blinks at the unfamiliar ceiling, slowly recalling that she is an Asterian. She marvels at how, despite her mistake, she was allowed to sleep in such a comfortable bed. She wonders if she won't be thrown out after all. Suddenly, voices drift to her ears. Curious and uneasy, she leaps from the bed and follows the sounds. As she gets closer, she hears someone angrily declare that the brat needs to be killed right now. The word killed freezes her in place. Shock washes over her as she realizes her grandfather was right. The maids didn't know who she truly was, which is why they were kind to her. But the family must hate her. Panic sets in. She knows if she doesn't escape, she will die. That night, Thiel shifts into her beast form and waits until the household falls quiet. Deciding that everyone is asleep, she sneaks out and runs, determined not to face death again. Meanwhile, Karthus is alerted that Thiel is missing. A guard informs him that they lost sight of her during a shift change. The household is in disarray as soldiers are mobilized to search for her. Karthus activates his firepower and orders everyone to be extremely careful so as not to scare the child. He summons Salamander and instructs the creature to find Thiel, describing her as a child snow leopard with white hair and golden eyes. Clenching his fists, Karthus grits his teeth in frustration. Where could she have gone? He mutters, furious at himself for failing to do anything earlier. He silently vows to speak to her properly when they find her. Salamander finds the child in the basement and informs Karthus that she is there, crying, a white-haired child curled up and sobbing. Karthus takes a lamp and goes down into the basement. In the corner, Thiel is huddled, muttering to herself, begging for forgiveness and pleading to her grandfather not to kill her. She repeatedly says she will return to Neshchen, that he was right, and begs someone to save her. Karthus calls out to her gently, urging her to come to him, but she continues muttering, apologizing that she doesn't even have a special ability. Karthus reassures her, telling her that she doesn't need to have a special hobby or ability. As long as she is with him, that's all he needs. He encourages her again to come to him. Thiel finally turns to look at him, her face stricken with fear, and covers her ears. She begs, saying she's sorry and will listen well from now on. Karthus calls out to her once more. Suddenly, she emits a flash of golden energy, holding her hands up and pleads, even something like this appears, so please, still don't kill me. Karthus is stunned as he sees the golden energy radiating from her. Before he can say anything, Thiel collapses again. He rushes to her side, calling her. Later, back in her room, Thiel slowly opens her eyes. Karthus is sitting beside her, his expression relieved and happy to see her awake. Thiel is shocked to find her father by her side, something she never expected, considering he hates her. Confused, she wonders if she dreamed his warm words. Could it have been a dream or a memory? She vaguely recalls hearing a voice urging her to come here. Karthus notices she's awake and apologizes for waking her. He explains that it's better to get things sorted quickly so she can rest properly. He then introduces Cade, the Asterian family physician who will be looking after her health. Cade greets her warmly, telling her she can call him Cade. Still bewildered, Thiel questions why a physician is looking after her. She knows physicians only treat those who have received the family name, even recalling how no one treated her injured head before, not even offering a cloth to clean the wound. She speaks aloud, asking if it's okay for Cade to treat her since she hasn't been given the family name. Karthus interrupts, asking her what color her eyes are. She answers, golden. Karthus explains that her golden eyes are proof she is his daughter and a member of the Asterian family. He assures her that as long as she has those eyes, there's nothing she isn't allowed to do in the mansion. Thiel hesitantly asks if this means she can stay in the mansion. Karthus confirms, saying she no longer needs to eat little portions, act as though she owns nothing, or sleep in the warehouse. He encourages her to live happily and peacefully there. Overwhelmed, Thiel begins to cry, thanking him. Karthus, visibly satisfied, tells Cade to finish up the treatment quickly, as he must be tired. Cade complies, beginning his work. Afterward, Thiel eats her food, trying to calm her nerves. She vividly remembers hearing a voice like her grandfather's, urging someone to kill her. Though it frightens her, she clings to Karthus' assurance that it's okay for her to stay. A maid appears, bringing out pudding, insisting that Thiel eat it after her soup. She explains that it's the chef's special pudding, made after a frenzy in the kitchen to prepare something comforting for Thiel. When Thiel takes a bite, she lights up with joy, exclaiming she's never tasted anything so good. The maid is glad she likes it. Hesitantly, Thiel asks the maid if it's really okay for her to stay in the mansion. The maid reassures her, saying she can eat plenty of delicious food, do the things she enjoys, and live a happy life. Thiel nervously asks if she can stay with the maid too. She's grown attached to the warm, kind woman and doesn't want to lose her. The maid, deeply moved, introduces herself as Rhea and promises to take care of Thiel until a personal maid is officially assigned. Thiel immediately becomes worried, asking if they'll have to part once that happens. Rhea smiles and reveals it's a secret, but she has already applied to be Thiel's personal maid. Thiel is thrilled. Rhea reassures her that from now on, she will always be by her side. Hearing this, Thiel can't help but feel truly happy for the first time. Rhea informs her that her room will soon be ready. The staff is decorating it beautifully for her. Thiel, amazed, thinks that the room she's currently in already feels incredibly spacious and beautiful. She wonders if she's really going to receive this level of treatment. The scene shifts to Karthus in a discussion with Alpheus. Alpheus accuses Karthus of not letting him see Thiel's face, pointing out how worried he is. Karthus counters that Alpheus has already seen her face, but Alpheus throws a tantrum, pointing out that Karthus went to get her from the basement and had a conversation with her, which he did not get to have. Setting aside Alpheus's complaints, Karthus changes the subject to something important. Alpheus, curious, asks if it concerns Thiel. Karthus confirms and reveals that Thiel has manifested a special ability. Alpheus is taken aback, questioning how it's possible for an ability to manifest this late. Karthus agrees it's unusual, but reveals something even more shocking. Thiel's ability is neither the snow leopard's ice-powered nor the black leopard's flame. Her power is the power of light. Chap 8 Alpheus is shocked to learn that Thiel possesses the power of light. He questions Karthus, asking if he is certain and if he saw it with his own eyes. Karthus confirms, stating that he witnessed it himself. Alpheus, trying to grasp the enormity of the revelation, begins to piece it together. If Thiel truly has the power of light, then the legend long passed down in the Empire might not be just a myth. He recalls the ancient legend. The one who possesses the power of light, a child blessed by the goddess Lisette, will bring morning to a land where morning never came, driving away darkness and maintaining the balance between light and shadow. Even though the events of this legend are so old that most people no longer believe in it, Alpheus can't deny what he's heard. The idea that such a power could exist again, manifesting in Karthus's granddaughter, shakes him to his core. Alpheus warns Karthus that if word of this gets out, both the imperial family and the temple will try to claim Thiel for themselves. They'll see her as the incarnation of the legend, a force that could disrupt the entire balance of power in the Empire. Karthus, however, calmly assures Alpheus that no one will take Thiel away from them, as neither the imperial family nor the temple will dare to act against the Asterian family. Alpheus acknowledges this, but admits there's something else troubling him. He reminds Karthus of a hidden legend within their leopard tribe, one known only to the heads of the Nestian and Asterian families and their destined successors. According to the tale, alongside the Child of Light, the Asterian and Nestian families would regain their true powers, ushering in an era of glory with the light. Pacing, Alpheus mentions that if the child truly has the power of light, she might even lift the Asterian curse. However, Karthus immediately retorts, declaring that Thiel is his youngest daughter, a child he has only just found again. He has no intention of burdening her with such weighty matters. Alpheus agrees, conceding that Thiel's well-being is what's most important right now. A week later, Karthus sits with Thiel, asking if there's anything she lacks or finds inconvenient. She shyly responds that there's nothing. Karthus suggests she sit in the middle of the sofa, but Thiel insists she's fine. Undeterred, Karthus picks her up gently and sets her in the middle of the sofa, asking her how it feels now. Beaming, Thiel replies that it's comfortable. Karthus watches her quietly, realizing how easily her guard lowers with just a small gesture of kindness. The thought strikes him, he could have made her happy with such small things all along. Yet those moments were stolen from her when she was taken away from him. So many years of her life, which should have been filled with happiness. He sets his teacup on the table and questions Thiel if she remembers the day she arrived and used the light power in the basement. Thiel admits she vaguely recalls it. Karthus tells her that the power she used is her own. Thiel is shocked, unable to comprehend. Her power? How could it be hers? Karthus explains that her ability is a special one, a gift that brings morning to dark lands and drives away the world's darkness. He reveals to her that she is the most precious being in the Empire. Thiel stares at him in disbelief. It doesn't feel real to her. Just days ago, she was nothing more than a useless half-breed, someone who couldn't even use basic powers. She struggles to believe she has something as extraordinary as a special ability. Yet she knows Karthus wouldn't lie to her. With hesitant tone, she calls out to him, asking if she can truly be of help to the Asterian family. Karthus is startled by her words, setting his teacup down on the table. He firmly tells her that she doesn't need to help the family. Even without doing anything, she is his daughter and a rightful member of the Asterian family. Hearing him call her his daughter makes Thiel burst into tears. She retorts that her grandfather always said a child of the family must contribute to it. Karthus responds firmly, saying that if a family relies on a child's help, it's better for that family to disappear altogether. Sitting beside her, he softens and reassures her. A young child like her shouldn't worry about such things. She should do whatever she wants to do. I'm 20 and still want to do whatever I want. Am I cooked, or am I just the appetizer refusing to get on the adulting buffet? Karthus tells Thiel about her powers not because he wants something from her, but to remind her that her only duty is to play well and eat well. He pats her gently, reinforcing his words. Thiel looks at him for a moment before happily agreeing to do so. The scene shifts to Zender, who slams the table in frustration. Angered by his inability to find Thiel even after a week, he orders the knights to search every inch of the estate, convinced that even if she had managed to escape, she wouldn't have gone far. He reassures himself that there is no way a half-breed like Thiel could have survived the harsh cold. If she had ventured outside, she would have surely perished by now. However, the mere possibility of the Asterians discovering her remains a concern. His irritation deepens as he recalls Thiel's docile pretense, only to disappear just like her mother once did. He finds the thought infuriating. In his mind, the ideal outcome would be for her to have walked out on her own and met her demise. His frustration spills over as he mutters curses, expressing his disdain. Turning to the butler, he gives his final command. If they find her corpse, they are to bring it back, and if she is still alive, they are to return with her dead. Thiel enters her room and finds it exceptionally large, beautiful, and gleaming, at least twice the size of Lowen's room. Turning to the butler, she expresses that the room is too big for her and that she does not need such a grand space. The butler, smiling, reassures her that nothing in this mansion is too big for her, as she is also its owner. He then encourages her to let him know if there is anything she desires. Thiel ponders over the words owner of this mansion, feeling a sense of disbelief. The butler then informs her that she has received many gifts from Karthus and the head of the house, and that her room, in particular, has been given special attention by them. Confused, she questions what he means by the head of the house. In response, the butler reveals that it is her grandfather, Alpheus. Immediately, she recalls the voice she once heard and abruptly asks the butler whether her grandfather dislikes her. The butler dismisses her concerns with a reassuring smile, stating that Alpheus likes her a lot. Observing her troubled expression, he easily deduces that she has been through enough hardship and likely fears the elderly. He then adds that her grandfather is currently away for work, but will meet her as soon as he returns. However, Thiel silently wonders if it is truly all right to meet someone who once spoke such harsh words. A faint sense of fear lingers in her heart. A few days later, Alpheus himself opens the door for Thiel, having summoned her after hearing from Ferdin that she believes he hates her. Noticing her silence, he questions what is wrong. Trembling, she recalls the words she once heard him say, the command to kill. For a moment, Alpheus contemplates, and realization suddenly dawns upon him. If she heard those words, then she must have misunderstood his intentions. Attempting to clarify, he explains that his words were directed toward her maternal grandfather, spoken in a moment of uncontrollable rage upon learning how she had been mistreated. He apologizes sincerely for frightening her. Thiel, with tears in her eyes, stands there in a daze, wondering if this is truly the case. Alpheus, seeing her hesitation, assures her once more, emphasizing how much he has missed her. Then, with a frustrated sigh, he shifts the blame onto Karthus, grumbling that it was his fault for keeping them apart. According to Karthus, Thiel was shy, and misunderstandings arose because of this. Alpheus laments all the things he wanted to do with her, having tea together, showering her with gifts, and patting her head affectionately. He then adds that Karthus even had dinner with her, which made him incredibly jealous. Hearing his complaints, Thiel lets out a soft chuckle before sincerely thanking him for giving her such a beautiful room. As she addresses him as grandfather for the first time, Alpheus feels an overwhelming warmth in his heart. Overcome with emotion, he joyfully acknowledges that she has finally accepted him as her grandfather. He then excitedly tells her that he has even more gifts for her, including some that have been custom-made. When he hands her a box, Thiel wonders what it could be. As she carefully opens it, she finds a plush Black Panther doll, Fluffy, with the same eyes as hers. Alpheus, observing her reaction, eagerly asks if she likes it. Without hesitation, she responds that she absolutely loves it. Pleased with her response, Alpheus reminisces, mentioning that her brothers also adored Black Panther dolls when they were children. Hearing this, Thiel hesitates for a moment before questioning him. Brothers? She wonders. Alpheus turns to Rhea, asking if she has not yet told Thiel about her brothers, Ferdy and Ludian. Rhea explains that she thought it would be best for Thiel to first get accustomed to the mansion before introducing more changes. Alpheus then turns back to Thiel, informing her that she has 2 older brothers who are currently rushing back from the academy after learning that she has been found. Upon hearing this, Thiel becomes tense. She knows they are her brothers, and she is aware that their mother died because of her. While her father and grandfather, as adults, have come to terms with the situation, she worries that it might not be the same for her brothers. After all, they must have missed their mother just as much as she had longed to see her father. Seeing Thiel's gloomy expression, Alpheus gently asks if something is troubling her. However, rather than pressing further, he assumes she must be exhausted and advises her to rest. He then assures her that the gifts will be sent to her room and reminds her that if she ever needs anything, she only has to ask. Before leaving with Rhea, Thiel once again expresses her gratitude. Overjoyed, Alpheus fully embraces the reality. He truly is her grandfather. Meanwhile, Heartless approaches Alpheus, questioning what he plans to do about the Nestians. Alpheus firmly states that he will send them a letter, as they must follow the proper procedures. Otherwise, they might try to reclaim Thiel. His expression darkens, still unable to fathom how a young child like her could worry about being useful to the family. It is not normal for a 7-year-old to think in such a way. The mere thought of how much Zender tormented and oppressed her fills him with fury. Heartless, equally enraged, adds that Thiel's self-esteem is incredibly low, a painful reminder of the suffering she endured. Clenching his fists in frustration, he curses himself for not finding her sooner. Alpheus, though acknowledging Heartless's distress, states that while Thiel is Heartless's daughter, she is also Lena's child. Because of this, they cannot hold the Nestians responsible for hiding her, but there are other ways to make them pay. It is time for the Nestians to face the consequences of their actions. The scene shifts to Zender, who is left in shock upon receiving news that the trade route has been severed. His butler confirms the information, adding that they have also announced a halt to food and material supplies. Panic grips Zender. This man deserves a lifetime VIP pass to the worst jail cell, complete with complimentary regret and unlimited solitude. However, his anxiety grows as he realizes the severity of the situation. If Asterion blocks the trade, their land exports will be completely cut off. Nestian is located in a remote area, and the only way to reach other territories is through Asterion. If the land route is obstructed, they will have no choice but to take the long and arduous sea route to export minerals. Additionally, the supplies provided by the head of the leopard tribe will no longer be sufficient to sustain them. Until now, the Asterians had been supplying them with everything they needed, but Zender had been diverting those resources to manage the family's finances. A grim realization strikes him. Does this mean they are demanding repayment for the embezzled resources? If Alpheus has uncovered the truth, then he is in grave trouble. He picks up the card given to him by the Asterians. He opens the letter, and as he reads the message, his face turns pale. The letter states that due to Nestian's failure in raising a child, Asterion has taken full custody of Thiel. A wave of disbelief washes over Zender. Thiel is in Asterion? It would take 3 days by carriage to reach there. Suddenly, a memory resurfaces. Thiel was seen heading toward the guest room. Could it be? Had she left in the Imperial carriage? Zender clutches the crumpled letter in his hand, deducing that Thiel must have spoken to the deputy, who in turn would have helped her. This realization fills him with worry. If the king were to hear of this, the consequences could be dire. Enraged, he throws objects across the room, shouting in frustration at how his knights could have lost track of her. His butler, standing by, can only offer an apology, his head bowed. Without hesitation, Zender issues a command. Zira is to be dismissed, along with the maids responsible and every person who failed to capture Thiel that day. However, just as the order leaves his lips, a voice suddenly rings from the doorway. Lowen stands there, her face contorted in disbelief. She demands to know how he could possibly fire her nanny. Tension fills the air as Zender registers Lowen's presence. His expression hardens, though he tries to soften his tone, instructing her that this is a matter for adults and should be discussed later. But Lowen, unwilling to accept this, bursts into a fit of anger, declaring that she will not allow him to take Zira away from her. Her defiance fuels Zender's temper, and his voice rises as he commands her to stop. This conversation will happen later, as he has already said. Tears well up in Lowen's eyes at her grandfather's harsh words. Without another word, She turns on her heel and dashes away, declaring that she hates him. The butler instinctively calls after her, but she does not stop. Zender, watching her retreating figure, lets out a weary sigh. Meanwhile, in Asterion, Thiel sits in her room, testing her powers. A frown mars her face as she struggles, unable to make them grow any stronger. A tinge of sadness creeps into her thoughts. Lowen, after all, can create all kinds of ice effortlessly, so why can't she? Yet, despite her frustration, she quickly shakes the feeling away. Her father has assured her that she is special, and so she holds on to hope, believing that one day she will be able to do something great. At that moment, Rhea enters the room, informing her that dinner is ready. Thiel rises, following her with a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. This is her first time dining at the formal table, a significant moment for her also. It was her first time seeing her brothers. As she steps into the dining hall, Karthus gestures for her to take a seat. One of her brothers, his gaze steady, acknowledges her presence with a greeting. He is Ferdy. Thiel returns the greeting, introducing herself as Thiel and stating that she is 7 years old. Before she can continue, another voice interrupts. Rudian, her other brother, openly questioning whether someone as tiny as her could truly be his sister. His words carry a note of skepticism. Ferdy, displeased, immediately rebukes him, reminding him to mind his tongue. Such remarks are rude. But Rudian is not deterred. He scrutinizes Thiel's features, commenting on how unusual it is, a snow leopard's fur and black panther's eyes. Normally, mixed-blood children inherit the appearance of only one parent, yet Thiel carries traits of both. His words strike something deep within her. Confidence drains from her face as self-doubt seeps in. She has always been aware of her unusual appearance. Before the conversation can spiral further, Rudian is reprimanded for his unnecessary remarks. Karthus intervenes, instructing him to keep his distance from Thiel for the time being, as she is still shy. Rudian attempts to protest, but Ferdy quickly cuts him off, assuring their father that they understand. He then turns to Rudian with a firm tone, warning him to act appropriately and focus on their meal. Turning back to Thiel, he properly introduces himself, stating that he and Rudian are twins. A bright grin spreads across his face as he expresses how happy he is to finally have a little sister. He had always invited his friends who used to bring their siblings during festivals, and he hopes that they could get closer. His words bring warmth to Thiel's heart. Encouraged, she eagerly tells him that she hopes to be in his care. Karthus, observing the moment, takes the opportunity to inform them that he has already spoken to the Academy about the situation. For now, they will remain together, allowing them to use this time to get to know one another. Later in the corridor, Rudian reminds Ferdy that he used to say having younger siblings was annoying. Ferdy remains silent for a moment before finally responding. His previous complaints were about having Rudian as a younger sibling. Rudian scoffs at the remark, pointing out that they are twins. How could Ferdy possibly consider himself older? But his protests go ignored, and frustration flares in his expression. Ferdy, however, remains unbothered. Instead, he turns to Rudian and states firmly that Thiel is their long-lost sister, so they should treat her well, take care of her, and get along. Rudian pouts, grumbling that he had planned to do so even without Ferdy's instructions. Yet despite the light-hearted exchange, Ferdy remains deep in thought. He cannot shake the unease creeping into his mind. The acceptance of Asterion's long-lost daughter has happened far too easily. There has been no paternity test, yet no one questions her existence. Her appearance is an almost perfect blend of a snow leopard's fur and a black panther's eyes, as if someone deliberately crafted it. Her petite frame, her delicate features, they evoke sympathy effortlessly. Something does not sit right with him. His father and grandfather are simply overjoyed, blind to any doubts. Rudian, as usual, treats it all as a game. And then there is her light power. The curse of Orfeo, passed down through all leopard clans, is a madness that manifests when their powers are used excessively. It corrodes the mind, leading to insanity if it worsens, and yet that he claimed that Thiel's light power can lift this curse. He scoffs that it's impossible and is sure that she is deceiving them all. Her small, harmless form hides something far more dangerous, and he is certain not getting trapped by it. Bro, are you alright? Don't mess with her, she's already been through enough. Thiel sits in the garden, on the turntable her father made exclusively for her. As she gazes off into the distance, lost in thought, Rhea notices her zoning out and asks if something is bothering her. Thiel dismisses her concern, saying it's nothing, but Rhea insists on knowing the truth. After a moment, Thiel speaks, clarifying that it's not discomfort she feels, but rather confusion about her brother's behavior. Unbeknownst to her, her brothers are hiding behind the flowers. Rudian grows anxious, wondering if they have been caught. Ferdy sighs in frustration, admitting that their cover was blown because he was too obvious. Why Rudian even bothered putting a disguise on his face? Thiel then tells Rhea that she had also seen them hiding in the hallway in front of her room, and even spotted faces peeking through the windows. Rhea is rendered speechless, especially at the revelation that they had been seen on a window of the upper floor as well. Meanwhile, Thiel grows disheartened, wondering if she has done something wrong. Rhea reassures her, explaining that their fascination stems from finding her both adorable and intriguing. However, she also reveals that their father has instructed them to keep their distance from Thiel for the time being. Despite Rhea's reassurance, Thiel remains troubled. She confesses that ever since then, Ferdy's gaze upon meeting hers has carried a sense of wariness, something she does not understand. At first he was kind to her, but now it feels as though he knows something that she does not. At that moment, another maid approaches Rhea, whispering something to her. Rhea turns to Thiel and informs her that a guest has arrived at the mansion to see her. Curious, Thiel asks who it is. Rhea replies that it is the Crown Prince, Ian. Thiel's expression instantly brightens upon hearing Ian's name, a reaction that does not go unnoticed by Rhea. Concerned, she asks if Thiel is uncomfortable with the visit, reassuring her that they can decline the meeting if she wishes. However, Thiel firmly refuses, stating that she would love to meet him. She adds that she never had the chance to properly thank him for his help back then. Just then, a rustling sound emerges from the same spot where her little stalker brothers are hiding. Rhea immediately worries for their safety, but soon enough, Ferdy and Rudian emerge from the flowers, completely covered in petals. Despite their disheveled appearance, they remain confident. Without hesitation, Ferdy questions if Ian has truly come to visit. Rudian finds it ridiculous that while they are forbidden from approaching Thiel, Ian is allowed to meet her. Ferdy shares the same sentiment. Ferdy has an overly complex personality, just stick to one side man. Ferdy turns to Rhea, demanding to know if this situation is not inappropriate. Rhea hesitates, growing visibly nervous and struggling to provide an explanation. Rudian mocks the situation, questioning what would happen if that rascal did something bad to their little sister. Rhea, appalled, quickly corrects him, reminding him that he cannot so casually refer to the prince in such a manner. Ferdy steps forward, standing firm in his belief that Thiel is far too young to entertain a guest from the royal family, even if he happens to be her savior. He insists that the best course of action is to send Ian away, emphasizing that family always comes before guests. He then turns to Thiel, silently urging her to agree. This is less of a request and more of a veiled threat, as though saying, agree or I'll start crying. Before Thiel can respond, a voice interrupts. Someone remarks that being called a rascal was not what they expected to hear. Thiel turns to see Ian standing before them. Irritated, Rudian points out that the prince has arrived without proper notice and questions what brings him to the Asterian garden. Ian, unfazed, explains that he had to come himself because the maid he had sent earlier had not returned. Rudian steps in between, emphasizing that his sister is quite shy, to the extent that even he himself has not had a proper conversation with her yet. Ferdy supports his claim, expressing his appreciation for Ian bringing Thiel back safely, but adding that his visits feel too sudden. Thiel still needs time to adjust to the manner, after all. Ian sighs, unimpressed, and challenges their stance by reminding them that he was the one who returned their supposedly dead sister to them. He questions whether this is truly how the Asterians treat their benefactors. Ferdy coldly responds, stating that the Asterians do not treat their benefactors poorly. However, when it comes to their little sister, their priorities are different. Something suddenly strikes Ferdy, a realization he had been avoiding. He is not even sure if she is truly their sister, yet he is still so concerned. Pushing the thought aside, he convinces himself that it is because she is just a child. She is small and delicate. How could they possibly leave her alone with someone like Ian? Thiel, who has remained silent throughout the exchange, tightens her grip on her hands before finally speaking. She expresses her genuine desire to thank her benefactor, asking for permission to meet him, if only for a little while. She assures them that she will return immediately. Her innocent request leaves both Rudian and Ferdy flustered. Rudian, clearly weak against her charm, relents, agreeing that if it is just for a moment, it should be fine. However, Ferdy quickly intervenes, stating that Ian is still twice her size and, in his view, a predator. Allowing her to go alone with him would not be safe. Ayan, visibly annoyed, questions whether they truly see him as a threat. He clarifies that his only purpose in coming here is to deliver a gift. He also points out the inconvenience of constantly being treated like an uninvited guest. Rudian attempts to argue further, but Thiel surprises him by gently taking his hand and asking if he would like to accompany her. Caught off guard, Rudian is flustered that she is asking him of all people. Ferdy, unwilling to be left out, immediately interjects, asking what about him. Thiel, sensing his distress, questions whether Rudian can come along as well. However, before Rudian can respond, Ferdy swiftly shuts him down, stating that he cannot accompany them. Rudian, irritated, demands to know why. Ferdy smoothly reminds him of the academy assignment he has yet to complete, remarking that it seems unlikely he will finish it on time. Rudian scoffs, accusing Ferdy of playing dirty. Meanwhile, Ferdy watches as Rudian walks alongside Thiel, making sure she is careful with her steps. Thiel smiles up at Rudian as they walk away, while Ferdy justifies his own actions by claiming that he is merely keeping an eye on her. There is no way he is falling for her, yet as Rudian watches them go, he begins to suspect otherwise. From the way Ferdy looks at Thiel, it is becoming increasingly obvious. He finds her absolutely adorable. Ayan notices that Thiel's complexion looks better than before, appearing healthier, with some weight gained. Thiel confirms to Ayan that she has been treated well at Asterion. Ayan, feeling relieved, is glad to hear this, especially since they did not get to have a proper goodbye before. He snaps his fingers, signaling for her gift, and a maid promptly arrives, carrying gifts for her. The gifts from Ayan are worth than Thiel's entire family fortune. Seeing the sheer amount of dresses before her, Thiel's mouth falls open in shock. Ferdy observes this scene and thanks Ayan, though he points out that Ayan could have taken the dresses from Asterion instead. Ayan mocks the suggestion, recalling how he used to wear wide, ill-fitted clothes. Thinking back on it, Ayan finds even that to be better than what Asterion provides. He questions Ferdy, suggesting that Asterion wouldn't even recognize quality if they saw it. The atmosphere grows tense, turning hostile. Thiel, realizing that if this continues, they might end up fighting, gets up and moves toward the dresses, contemplating what to do. She carefully goes through them, selecting the least flashy one. Turning to Ayan, she thanks him and states that since there are too many, she will only take this one. Ayan, amused, laughs at her decision, questioning whether the precious youngest daughter of the Asterion family expects him to be satisfied with her choosing just one dress. She hurriedly confirms but immediately corrects herself, saying that is not what she meant. Ayan argues that if that is truly the case, she should just accept all of them. He knows that her brothers could easily buy these for her, but he is saddened that last time he only had the chance to gift her a single dress. Thiel thinks back to that moment, remembering that it was her first gift. She decides she will treasure it forever. Ferdy sighs and advises Thiel to get used to receiving many gifts. He adds that once she is officially announced as the youngest daughter of the family, people will start sending presents to make a good impression, dresses, jewelry, and more. He points out that the things Ayan has brought are not something she should feel undeserving of. Ayan, growing irritated, questions whether Ferdy is trying to mock him. He emphasizes that these gifts are not from the imperial family, but are personally from him to Thiel. Ferdy, remaining composed, denies mocking Ayan, but expresses slight disappointment in the gifts he personally brought. Their tension escalates, and they are on the verge of a full-blown argument when Thiel intervenes, requesting them not to fight. Ayan pulls Thiel toward him, commenting that he should have taken her with him, as he momentarily forgot that her brothers might have a bad influence on her. Thiel looks at Ayan with concern. Ferdy, angered by Ayan's words, demands to know how he can say such a thing about the youngest daughter of Asterion. Ayan smirks, remarking that the paternity test results have not arrived yet. This statement causes Thiel to worry. She knows she is definitely an Asterion, but what if the test results say otherwise? Ayan, noticing her shiver, questions whether she is anxious. He assures her not to worry, promising that if the results say she is not part of this family, he will take her with him since he finds her adorable. Ferdy is utterly shocked by Ayan's words, while Thiel, taken aback, feels unexpectedly happy at the thought that Ayan wants her. Ferdy, pulling Thiel back from Ayan, firmly states that such a thing will not happen. He questions whether Ayan even understands the significance of the golden eyes trait. He then instructs Thiel that she must refuse anyone who tries to take her away. Thiel hesitates but acknowledges that Ayan is an estate guest. Ferdy, tightening his grip on her, teaches her that it does not matter, she must refuse anyone outside the family. He then turns her toward Ian, urging her to repeat what he taught her. Reluctantly, Thiel says no. As the two men continue to bicker, Ian, growing frustrated, grabs his head. Finally, Ian decides to take his leave, stating that they should stop treating him like an uninvited guest. He adds that sometimes he forgets his status. Ferdy, laughing, remarks that he is fully aware of what he is, an Asterian. As Ian prepares to leave, Thiel quickly rushes to him, asking if he will visit her again. She feels genuinely sad and wants to see him again. Ian looks at her for a moment before kissing her hand. He assures her that he will definitely come to see her again when her brothers are not around, promising to bring even better gifts next time. This gesture not only causes Ferdy to yell out in frustration, but also leaves Thiel completely taken back. Shortly after Ian's departure, Rudian rushes over, demanding to know what took so long and whether Ian did something to Thiel. Ferdy, without hesitation, confirms that Ian did, shocking Rudian. Ferdy then turns to Thiel, reminding her of what he told her. She must refuse anyone who tries to take her away. Thiel acknowledges this, but secretly dislikes it. Ferdy, deep in thought, considers the honor of Asterian, regardless of whether Thiel is truly an Asterian by blood. For now, she is still the youngest daughter of the family, and they must protect her. Turning to Rudian, Ferdy shares his plan. They must do everything in their power to keep that rascal away from Thiel. Both brothers, filled with determination, resolve to protect their sister at all costs. Meanwhile, Thiel, standing there quietly, ponders to herself. Despite everything, she still wants to see Ian again. Heartless questions Ferdy about the paternity test, and Ferdy confirms that it has been a while, yet they still have not received the results. Heartless finds this strange, believing that since it is an urgent matter, the results should have arrived within a week. He begins to suspect that something is amiss. Rudian points out that the donations Asterian gives to the temple alone exceed the Empire's annual budget for years, yet the temple is delaying the results. Heartless starts to worry that Nestain might be manipulating the temple, possibly trying to make it seem as though the child has no connection to Asterian and ultimately take the child away. Determined, he declares that he will push the temple to provide a response quickly. Alpheus, eager about the matter, expresses his excitement at the prospect of announcing to the world the existence of Asterian's youngest daughter. Rudian, delighted for Thiel, remarks that once the announcement is made, she will receive many gifts. Ferdy adds that this will also allow her to attend parties. Thiel, amused by this revelation, learns that she will even be able to invite people her age to the mansion for tea parties. However, her excitement soon fades as she begins to feel uneasy. Observing her expression, Ferdy wonders whether most girls do not usually feel excited about such things. Heartless then comments that their youngest sibling is a little shy. Though she opens up quickly with them, she still finds it difficult to be around unfamiliar people. He assures Thiel that if she wishes to delay the announcement, she is free to do so, as it is not necessary for her to meet strangers just yet. He encourages her to express her feelings, promising that if she does not wish to go through with it, they will find a solution. Relieved, Thiel happily agrees. Rudian, thrilled by this outcome, finally feels he has permission to approach Thiel. She chuckles, remarking on how kind her brothers are, to which Rudian proudly boasts that of course they are. Wanting to celebrate, he suggests getting Thiel a piggyback ride and taking a lap around the mansion, asking if she would find it fun. However, before Thiel can answer, Ferdy hits Rudian with a book and tells him to stop being ridiculous. Instead, he invites Thiel to sit with him, offering to read her a storybook. Thiel becomes excited at the mention of stories about mysterious places, delicious food, splendid sleeping chambers, and thrilling adventures. She has always loved fairy tales. When she lived in the Nestain mansion, she could only listen to stories secretly from outside Lowen's room. But here, Rhea reads to her every day, making her incredibly happy. She quickly chooses to sit with Ferdy, which fills him with pride as he believes she prefers storybooks over Rudian's antics. Rudian, however, twitches slightly, finding Thiel absolutely adorable, while Ferdy remains secretly cautious. As Ferdy reads, he narrates a tale of a great lion living deep within a forest, possessing mysterious magic. Rudian, uninterested in just hearing about it, interrupts, insisting that things like this are much better experienced in real life. Ferdy looks at him in confusion, questioning what he is planning. Without further delay, Rudian uses his fire abilities to create a lion out of flames. Ferdy immediately scolds him, worried that he might scare Thiel. To his surprise, she claps her hands in amazement, clearly fascinated. She turns to Ferdy and expresses her desire to learn how to properly use her powers just like them. Both Ferdy and Rudian are momentarily confused by her words, wondering what she means by properly. Ferdy reassures her that magic is something that occurs naturally and does not require practice. Thiel, however, grows disheartened at this explanation, admitting that if that is the case, then she does not understand why she cannot seem to use her abilities properly. Ferdy begins to ponder. If the power of light is truly supposed to be a legendary skill, then why does it seem so difficult for her? He finds it confusing as he is certain she possesses it, yet she struggles to use it. This thought leads him to wonder whether what she has is really the power of light. Rudian also finds it odd. Even though the way one applies their abilities can vary, the power itself should manifest naturally, as it is inherited. Seeing Thiel on the verge of tears, he grows concerned. Ferdy quickly steps forward, tells Rudian to move aside, and gently asks Thiel if she truly wishes to learn how to use her power properly. Wiping her tears, she nods earnestly, expressing her strong desire to learn. Determined, Ferdy suggests they go to the training ground, as it has plenty of space and will allow him to teach her properly. Internally, he sees this as the perfect opportunity to examine whether her power truly is the legendary power of light. As they arrive at the training ground, Thiel marvels at its vastness. However, Rudian worries whether it is alright for them to be there so late. Ferdy assures him that it is fine since he has already informed Rhea, though in reality, he had simply rushed away without further explanation. Standing before her, Ferdy begins instructing Thiel. He explains that when using magic, she must first imagine it in her mind. She needs to picture herself using her power properly. To demonstrate, he brings forth his own fire ability. Thiel watches in awe as the flames flicker around him. He continues, emphasizing that she must keep focusing on the image in her mind. As he speaks, the flames around him grow larger. Rudian, noticing the fire expanding dangerously, shouts at Ferdy to stop, worried that it is getting out of control. However, Ferdy remains wrapped in his flames, fully absorbed in his own magic. Thiel and Rudian watch him with growing concern, calling out to him, but he does not respond, making them fear that he is being reckless once again. Rudian rushes toward Ferdy, instructing Thiel to stay where she is and not to move, warning that she will get hurt if she does. Drawing his sword, he points out that Ferdy's madness is different from others, but he has never lost control like this before. He knows this is bad. Attempting to stop Ferdy with his magic sword, Rudian is suddenly pushed back to the ground by the intense flames. The situation worsens as Ferdy becomes completely engulfed in fire. Thiel watches in growing fear, wondering if this is all because she told him she wanted to learn how to use her abilities. She contemplates what to do, wishing she could turn back time, just as she had before. Suddenly, a voice calls out, telling her to jump in. She turns around, startled, as someone assures her that she can save him. She hesitates, questioning who is speaking. A bright light appears, telling her that only she can save him with her light. Clenching her fists, Thiel makes her decision and leaps into the flames. Rudian screams at her to come back, warning her of the danger. Even Ferdy, despite his state, tells her not to come any closer. But Thiel remains undeterred. She knows she won't be hurt. She tells him that even though he was always cautious of her, he was still kind in his own way, and she believes he won't harm her because he is a good person. Ferdy's eyes widen as he sees Thiel rising toward him. She wraps her arms around him in a tight embrace, confident that she can do it, just like she did in the basement. Thiel's light energy surges, enveloping Ferdy completely and extinguishing all the flames from his body. Even Rudian, standing nearby, is left in awe at the sight. Every trace of the flames vanishes, but the effort takes its toll on Thiel. Her body gives out, and she collapses. Ferdy instinctively catches her before she hits the ground, his voice filled with urgency as he calls her name, desperately trying to wake her up. Later in the house, Karthus stands before them, his expression demanding an explanation. He wants to know exactly what happened. Rudian speaks first, explaining that Ferdy had gone out of control because he had used too much of his abilities, causing everything to spiral out of hand. Ferdy, standing beside him, adds that Rudian had done his best to stop himself and had even gotten hurt in the process. More importantly, it was Thiel who had ultimately calmed him down. Ferdy understands now. He knows why he lost control. The powerful energy he had once imagined, the overwhelming flame he could have wielded, it was never meant to be used for the curse. But then, after Thiel's intervention, that buried desire surfaces again. His gaze falls upon the child lying unconscious in the bed. He almost hurt her, This small, fragile child, because of his madness, and yet, without the slightest hesitation, she had run straight to him. The truth is undeniable. Whether she is truly his sister or not no longer matters. What he hates most is himself, his own foolish expectations, his fear of the power of light, his refusal to believe in an absurd legend only to avoid disappointment. He had been so cautious, so wary of Thiel, yet she had placed her trust in him completely, asking for nothing in return. All it took was the smallest act of kindness. Karthus calls Ferdy's name, pulling him from his thoughts. Without hesitation, Ferdy takes responsibility, admitting that it was his fault. But before Karthus can say anything, Rudian interjects, firmly disagreeing. It isn't Ferdy's fault at all. In fact, Ferdy hadn't even used half of his usual ability. Karthus takes this in, understanding the gravity of the situation. He decides there will be time to deal with it later. But for now, Thiel comes first. His gaze drifts toward the window, taking in the vast stretch of land beyond. He should have built a ceiling over the training ground. The sheer intensity of the light was staggering. It hadn't just illuminated the area, it had shone over the entire territory. A light of that magnitude could not have gone unnoticed. The royal family, the temple, there is no doubt that they have already caught wind of it. The legend, it seems more real now than ever. This child is carrying something far too great, far too heavy for her small frame to bear alone. Without wasting another moment, Karthus issues an order. At first light, Farden is to contact the temple and request the results of the paternity test. Time is running out. Before anyone else reaches out, before outside forces try to take control, they must protect Thiel under the name of Asterion as soon as possible. The next morning, Rhea checks on Thiel, asking if she is feeling any pain. Thiel reassures her that she is fine and immediately inquires about Ferdy's condition. Rhea informs her that Ferdy stayed by her side until early morning. Thiel is shocked to hear that he remained awake for so long. As she steps out of her room, she finds Ferdy and Rudian waiting outside. They hurriedly ask if she is all right, and she assures them that she is. In return, she asks about their well-being. Ferdy, however, scolds her, insisting that she should be more concerned about herself in moments like these. Rudian, clearly frustrated, expresses how worried he had been, calling her tiny and fearless, but his voice falters as he questions what would have happened if she had been seriously hurt. Lowering her head, Thiel offers a weak apology, but Ferdy immediately scolds Rudian for his harsh words. Rudian hesitates, unsure if he has said something wrong. As Thiel watches, she notices his hands trembling. Stepping closer, she reassures them both that she will not act so recklessly again. Rudian scoffs, his voice quieter this time, adding that he will not allow such a situation to happen again either. Ferdy, unable to hold back, suddenly embraces her. His voice is strained with emotion as he pleads for her never to do such a thing again. Before Thiel can respond, Karthus arrives, his presence commanding their attention. He states that they need to go somewhere and, in a measured tone, explains that Ferdy had been in a critical state. If Thiel had been an ordinary child, she would not have survived. What she did was reckless, yet he acknowledges that she saved Ferdy's life. Lowering himself to her level, he meets her eyes and clarifies that he is not scolding her, only expressing his concern. He gently pats her head, affirming that he is her father and that he hopes she will learn to take better care of herself. Hearing his words, Thiel's heart swells with emotion. Looking up at him, she feels an unfamiliar warmth at the acknowledgement. When he takes her hand and calls her a good daughter, a deep sense of joy washes over her. Excitement fills her as she notices her grandfather, Alpheus, approaching. His expression is a mix of concern and relief as he inquires about her condition. He explains that he had visited earlier, but upon finding her asleep, he had left. Thiel, with a bright smile, informs him that her father took good care of her. Alpheus stills for a moment before a wide grin spreads across his face. She had called Karthus her father. A chuckle escapes him, his emotions evident, and he feels assured that Karthus must have explained things well. As they walk together, Thiel's attention is drawn to an intricately crafted bookshelf. Alpheus, noticing her interest, observes as she tries to reach for something. With a knowing smile, he lifts her up and directs her to press a specific red book. The moment she presses it, a hidden door swings open. Alpheus reveals that this is the secret room, known only to the head of the Asterion family. He explains that the door can only be opened by someone with Asterion blood. Thiel, taken aback, murmurs her disbelief, realizing that she truly carries the blood of Asterion. With a calm assurance, Alpheus tells her that there is no need for a paternity test. As they step inside, the room exudes an ancient atmosphere, filled with history and significance. Alphys explains that this sacred space has been passed down through generations, and is meant for the one who awakens the legendary light ability. He then suggests that Thiel take a step forward. The moment her foot touches the floor, light bursts forth from her body. The radiance is overwhelming, illuminating the entire room, yet curiously, it does not hurt Alphys' eyes. The glow is pure and mysterious, unlike anything he has ever seen. Suddenly, the walls begin to shift, an ancient script carves itself into the stone. The words reveal a prophecy. When the lingering darkness disappears and light fully takes its place in this world, Asterion and Neshchen will regain their original strength. Light will suppress darkness just by existing. Alphys, deep in thought, wonders if this means that the mere existence of light ability has the power to cure madness. Thiel, confused by the message, questions its meaning. Heartless steps forward and offers an explanation. He reminds her of Ferdy's condition the previous day and reveals that it is a curse passed down through the Asterion and Neshchen bloodlines. Overuse of their abilities causes them to lose control, and while Ferdy, due to his youth, has survived so far, adults succumb entirely to the madness. Their rampage continues until they destroy everything around them, and ultimately themselves. Until now, no one has been able to stop this descent into chaos. No one, except for the one standing before them. As realization dawns, all eyes turn to Thiel. In that moment she understands, she alone possesses the power to change everything. Thiel believes she can cure Asterion madness, and the fact that everyone needs her here fills her with happiness. For the first time, she truly feels like a member of Asterion, someone they depend on. Stepping out of the room, Alphys tells her that if she ever wishes to enter the secret chamber, she is welcome to do so. But Thiel hesitates, pointing out that the room is meant for the head of the family alone. At this, Alphys only laughs, correcting her with ease. Before it is a place reserved for the head of the family, it is first and foremost the sanctuary of those who bear the light of power. In other words, it is her place, and she may enter whenever she wishes. Hearing this, Thiel is overcome with joy. She no longer feels like an outsider, she belongs here. Without another thought, she dashes off to find her brothers. Meanwhile, Alphys turns to Karthus, offering him a reassuring pat. He tells him that there is no need for worry. They will protect this place. No matter what, he is resolute that he will not allow any profane force to lay even a finger on Thiel. Just then, Alphys mentions that they have received letters from both the temple and the palace. Karthus scoffs at the sudden correspondence, noting that weeks had passed without any word on the test results, and now, all at once, the temple is reaching out. It is surprising, especially since reports claimed that the light was visible even in Neshchen territory. The radiance had been accompanied by the image of a fish in the sky, the emblem of Tuset, the god of light, and the symbol of the empire's official religion. Naturally, the entire empire is in an uproar, and the noisiest place of all is none other than the temple. Karthus, skeptical, asks what exactly the temple has to say. Alphys informs him that they have announced the results and are summoning both Karthus and Thiel. The demand frustrates Karthus. If the results were ready, why not simply include them in the letter? It is not difficult for him to deduce the truth. They must have realized that Thiel is the true bearer of the light. Sensing his unease, Alphys reassures him. Even if the temple attempts something, they are not without allies. He has already reached out to someone who can support them. If Karthus goes to the temple, he will find help waiting for him there. This knowledge brings some relief to Karthus, and he makes the decision to go. Meanwhile, Thiel is happily enjoying her dessert. Seeing her so delighted, Ferdy playfully asks if he should bring more, but Rhea dismisses the idea, reminding them that dinner is still to come. One pie is enough for now. Rudian, sitting across from Thiel, watches her for a moment before silently offering his own piece. He had been saving it, he explains, but he wants her to have it. Ferdy, unimpressed, calls him an idiot. It is the same thing either way. Thiel, however, cuts a piece from her own slice and insists Rudian eat it instead. She is content with just a little. Rudian, deeply moved by her gesture, hesitates, but before he can say anything, Ferdy interjects, feigning jealousy. What about him? With a small laugh, Thiel cuts a piece for him as well, but Ferdy, ever the tease, complains that his slice is too small. Amused, she offers him 2 slices instead. Their light-hearted bickering continues, filling the room with warmth and laughter. When Karthus enters the dining hall, his gaze sweeps over the scene, and he shakes his head. He had told them not to tease their little sister. Immediately, the brothers protest. They were not teasing her, they insist, merely sharing the pie. Seeing them like this, Karthus realizes he has little reason to worry about the younger ones. He then turns his attention to Thiel, gently instructing her to get plenty of rest. Tomorrow they will be heading out. Upon hearing this, Rudian asks why. Karthus explains that the paternity test results have arrived. Thiel stiffens at first, but Karthus quickly assures her that there is nothing to fear. He will be with her. She calms herself, reminding herself that there is no need for worry. After all, the sacred chamber of Asterion has acknowledged her. That alone is proof enough. Ferdy, eager as ever, declares that he will accompany them as well. Rudian, not to be left behind, jumps in. If anyone dares to take Thiel away, he will be there to stop them. The more people by her side, the better. Their determination is unmistakable. Seeing this, Karthus allows them to come, though he knows full well that the temple will not be pleased. The next morning, the maids are abuzz with excitement as they prepare Thiel for the visit. One suggests adding curls to her hair, thinking it would suit her. Another, however, believes tying it up neatly would be more appropriate, considering their destination. All around her, the maids eagerly offer their opinions, their enthusiasm undeniable. This is, after all, Thiel's first official outing as an Asterion, and they want her to stand out as much as possible. When they finally step back and ask if she likes it, even Thiel is taken aback by her own reflection. She had never seen herself look this way before. Rhea, watching her reaction, remarks that Thiel looks absolutely beautiful. Among all the young ladies of her age, she is without a doubt the most striking. In Neshchen, all Thiel had ever heard were insults, ugly, vulgar. But here, she feels as though she has been reborn. With genuine gratitude, she thanks Rhea and the other maids for making her look so beautiful. The maids, utterly enchanted by her kindness, whisper among themselves, "Thiel is an angel," and they would gladly follow her forever. Outside, her brothers are already waiting. The moment they see her, their eyes widen with admiration. She is always cute, they say, but today she looks like a doll. Thiel smiles, returning the compliment. They too look dashing. Rudian, unable to contain himself, pats her head really lightly, careful not to ruin her hairstyle. Ferdy, grinning, claps his hands together. It is time to get going. After all, the man waiting for them is not just their father, but the most handsome father of them all. As they arrive at the temple, stepping down from the carriage, Karthus holds Thiel in his arms, lifting her up with care. Ferdy, standing beside them, questions his father, his voice filled with concern. Does he truly intend to bring Thiel inside like this? Without hesitation, Karthus affirms his decision. Even if separated for a moment, he does not trust what the temple might do with Thiel. Ferdy acknowledges the weight of his father's words. He understands all too well that the temple must have insisted on bringing Thiel here to confirm her powers, and once they do, they will stop at nothing to take her away. Sensing the tension in the air, Thiel notices how uneasy everyone around her seems. Worry grips her. What if someone tries to drag her away? But then she remembers what her brothers have taught her. In moments like these, there is only one thing she must do: say no. Not in a whisper, not in hesitation, but loud and clear, so that no one dares to disregard her. Inside the grand halls of the temple, Lord Priest Andres steps forward, welcoming them with a composed expression. He offers an apology for making them travel such a distance, explaining that His Holiness, the Pope, had insisted upon this meeting. His gaze then shifts to Thiel, observing her with quiet intent. Thiel wonders, is this the moment she should say no? Before she can act, Karthus speaks first, explaining that Thiel is shy and that it would be best to skip unnecessary formalities and proceed directly to the results. Andres, understanding his impatience, agrees without objection. Karthus says that he will take Thiel outside and comes back, but Andres promotes that it would be better if they all sit together. The temple's paternity test is a simple yet sacred ritual. Holy water is imbued with divine energy, and then strands of the child's hair, along with the parent's hair, are placed within it. If the sacred water turns blue, it signifies biological parentage. But if it remains unchanged, as the strands are dropped into the water, silence settles over the room. A moment passes. The Pope watches intently, but then he scoffs. The water remains clear, its color refusing to shift. Karthus witnessed to the results with her own eyes. He can tell that it was a cruel manipulation, meant to shock Thiel, to stir guilt within her young heart, and in doing so, weaken her resolve. A tactic designed to make her surrender willingly. Andres, seeing Karthus' reaction, assumes that he already understands what the results have revealed. Without hesitation, he concludes that since it is now confirmed that Tyle is not Karthus's biological daughter, and since she has nowhere else to go, the temple will take her into custody temporarily. It is an order, she must be handed over. But before anyone can act, a voice erupts. Rudian steps forward, his fury palpable as he demands that they stay away from her. Andres does not waver, his tone measured as he expresses his regret. It is, after all, the will of the gods. The Asterian family should take comfort in the knowledge that the temple will care for her. But then, Tyle speaks. She repeats their words back to them. Do they truly claim that she is not Karthus's daughter? The thought feels strange to her, unnatural, as though it cannot possibly be true. A flicker of doubt rises within her, but she suppresses it. Andres, taken aback, did not expect her to question the decree so boldly. Turning to her father, Tyle asks him to set her down. Andres watches her with amusement, mocking the defiance in her young voice. How dare she, a mere child, question the divine judgment of the gods? But Karthus has had enough. His patience wears thin as he firmly states his name, his voice carrying authority that demands respect. He warns Andres to watch his words. After all, Tyle is the rightful heir and sole lady of House Asterion. The temple priests stir at his declaration, their anger simmering beneath the surface. Karthus dares to challenge the gods. To doubt their judgment? It is blasphemy. The temple's paternity test has never been wrong. But Tyle does not hesitate. She stands unwavering, her voice carrying a newfound strength. This time, she declares, they are wrong. Andres finds himself caught off guard. He had opposed this plan from the beginning, sensing that Asterion would never fall for such a shallow deception. And now, faced with Thyle's conviction, he understands why. Her light energy. It is real. The divine presence that surrounds her is unmistakable, undeniable. Without hesitation, Tyle turns to Karthus and asks for a strand of his hair. He hands it to her without question, and she moves toward the sacred water. She does not need divine proof to know who she is. She has the fur of a snow leopard, the piercing eyes of a black panther. She is her father's daughter. She is her mother's daughter. Even Asterion itself has acknowledged her. She does not fear the truth. With a steady hand, she drops the strand of hair into the water. Andres watches, inwardly confident. Without the divine energy infused into the water, there is no possible way it could react a second time. Whatever she hopes to prove the moment the hair touches the water, everything changes. A golden radiance bursts forth, illuminating the chamber with an ethereal glow. It is not the expected blue of the parentage test. It is something far greater. The temple itself is responding to Tyle. The power of God loose, the very force that protects the temple, is resonating with her light. The priests recoil in shock, struggling to comprehend what they have just witnessed. Yet even in the face of such an overwhelming display, one among them speaks up. The results, he argues, are invalid. The sacred water did not turn blue. The test was not conducted under the Pope's proper authority. Andres, regaining his composure, affirms the claim. Even if something extraordinary has occurred, it is not enough. The procedure must be followed. The rules are absolute. But before he can continue, a voice cuts through the tension. It is calm, unwavering, yet carries an undeniable weight. If the issue is merely a matter of procedure, then it can be resolved. All eyes turn as the figure steps forward. It is none other than Anne. The priests protest. He should not be here. He has no right to interfere. But Ian simply wonders aloud why that should be the case. Before he was crowned Crown Prince, His Holiness, the Pope himself, had granted him the authority of a temple representative. Andres stiffens. Panic flickers in his eyes. Of all times, why now? Why, when they had dismissed his authority as mere symbolism, does he choose this moment to act? Ian stands tall, unshaken as he poses a single question. Should they conduct the parentage test again? Ian uses his powers to remove the golden water, revealing the blue water beneath. He turns to Andres, stating that he can now confirm Thiel's Asterian bloodline. Overwhelmed with emotion, Thiel runs to Ian and thanks him, but Ian, ever humble, dismisses her gratitude, insisting that he did nothing particularly great. Thiel, however, adamantly disagrees, saying that he has always helped her, and she vows that when she grows up, she will definitely repay him. Ian gazes at her, lost in thought. She has changed so much. Once, she would become flustered over even the smallest gift, yet now she stands before him, resolute. A soft smile tugs at his lips as he cups her face, remarking that, in that case, he should start considering how he wants to be repaid. Rudian's temper flares instantly. Bro got worked up seeing Ayan riz her sister. He is ready to lash out, but Karthus holds him back, though even Karthus himself is clearly struggling to contain his irritation. Ferdy, observing them both, thinks wryly that his father, too, needs to calm down. Karthus turns to Andres with a scoff, remarking that there seems to have been a misunderstanding. Andres panics, bewildered by how things have come to this point, and hastily assures them that the matter will be thoroughly investigated. Apologizing profusely, he adds that the temple would like to offer compensation. However, Karthus does not even entertain the idea. Without another word, he turns away, leaving the matter behind as if it were already settled. Extending his hand to Thiel, he signals that it is time to go home. And so Thiel returns to her true family, to Asterion, where she is finally embraced by those who have long awaited her. Her excitement is palpable, the joy in her eyes uncontainable. Later, in the royal carriage, Ayan allows himself a moment of quiet reflection. He is relieved that he had made all the necessary preparations in time at Duke Evalt's request. Any delay, and he might have missed the crucial timing. His gaze softens as he thinks of Thiel. She has become such a bold little thing over the years. Once she had seemed so fragile, as if the slightest touch would reduce her to tears. And yet, when she bares her claws, there is no mistaking her for anything but predator, adorable, but a predator nonetheless. Cedric, seated nearby, interrupts his thoughts, reminding him that the Emperor was displeased by his sudden absence. Was he not supposed to meet with him today? He warns Ayan to tread carefully in their conversation. Ayan already knows what the meeting would have entailed, the matter of choosing a consort. Just the thought of it exhausts him. Cedric, ever the loyal attendant, scolds him for speaking so carelessly about the Emperor. But Ayan only sighs. What does it matter how he speaks of that man? The Emperor, his grandfather. No matter how much time passes, Ayan will never forget what he did. That moment will never fade, the night the mansion was engulfed in flames, the night his mother and father were taken from him. The creation of a subspace is a rare and formidable ability, passed down solely through the imperial bloodline. What little is known about it is that it is extremely dangerous and nearly impossible to control. That was why, when Ayan turned 8, the Emperor had raised a sword to his throat under the pretense of preventing him from losing control. His parents, the Emperor's only son and princess, had thrown themselves in front of the blade to shield him. If they died, Ayan would be the only one left to carry on the noble bloodline. And so, instead of being killed, he was made the crown prince. From that moment on, they had burdened him with a cruel command to find a partner who would share the weight of his power. A living sacrifice, bound to him for life under the name of imprinting. Someone whose very existence would burn away, their lifespan diminishing to suppress his rampage. He wonders who will suffer in his place, who will one day lose their life for him. The thought is horrifying. At the imperial palace, the Emperor's furious voice echoes through the grand halls. He has ordered Ayan time and time again to find a partner and complete the imprinting. So why does he continue to wander aimlessly? His patience wears thin. He reminds Ayan, one day he will not be able to control his own powers. When will he stop behaving so irresponsibly? Disgusted, the Emperor finally dismisses him, unable to stand the sight of him any longer. Outside, Ayan silently opens his subspace and steps inside. The air is thick with solitude. When he was younger, he could create a variety of spaces within this realm. But now his mind is clouded, and he no longer remembers how. The place he once called home. The mansion that burned that night no longer exists. There is nothing left but this void. A hollow ache settles in his chest. Would it have been better if he could light a fire here? He wonders what this place truly is, this empty world of his own creation, where not even a single candle can burn. Yet even in its vast emptiness, it remains the only space where no one can interfere, the only place where he can rest. His gaze lands on something unexpected, a pillow. A deep frown creases his brow. How did this get here? He never placed anything like this in his subspace. Picking it up, he brings it closer. The scent is unmistakable. It smells like Thiel. He wonders if Thiel brought it here. A strange warmth spreads through him as he hugs the pillow to his chest. Since the announcement of Thiel as a member of the Asterion family, the entire Empire's attention has been drawn to her. Though her abilities were never explicitly revealed, those who had witnessed the radiant light with their own eyes were certain of the immense power that veiled within her. Now the scene shifts. Thiel stands before a towering stack of letters, her eyes widening at the sheer volume of them. Every single one is an invitation addressed to her. Rudian, standing beside her, informs her of this fact, leaving her momentarily stunned. Karthus, ever composed, states that if she does not wish to attend any of them, she does not have to. There were so many meaningless invitations that they had even considered burning them. Thiel hesitates at the idea, uncertain if it would be right to dispose of them so carelessly. However, Karthus believes that it would be wise to prepare regardless. With so many invitations arriving, it is inevitable that she will have to attend at least a few. He suggests they start gathering dresses for her. Thiel quickly protests, claiming that she already has plenty, but Rudian counters her argument with ease. Fashion changes with the seasons after all, and it is always good to have an appropriate dress for every occasion. Lowering his voice, Rudian whispers to Ferdy, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Since they are already on the topic, it would be a perfect opportunity to bring out all the dresses Ian had gifted her as well. Karthus then muses aloud, considering the idea of inviting Oliver one day. A girl around Thiel's age would likely have a better sense of style and could help her choose suitable attire. The suggestion immediately sparks jealousy in Rudian and Ferdy. They insist that they will be the ones to accompany Thiel when selecting her dresses, refusing to be replaced. Karthus, unfazed by their childish protests, reminds them that men have a limited perspective on such things. It would be a good chance for Thiel to meet Oliver regardless. At this, Thiel hesitantly asks about Oliver's identity. Her brothers inform her that Oliver is her cousin, the daughter of her aunt. A flicker of unease crosses Thiel's face. Would Oliver be anything like Rowan? Though she was different from the people of Neshchen, the thought still troubled her. Sensing her hesitation, Ferdy gently assures her that she does not have to meet Oliver as she is still uncomfortable around new people. Rudian, however, seizes the moment with his usual mischief. Would it not be far better to accompany him instead of meeting a cousin she had never even seen? Ferdy scoffs at the idea, remarking that if she followed Rudian, she would undoubtedly end up buying rags instead of proper dresses. The two begin bickering, their voices overlapping in a heated debate about fashion sense. Karthus, uninterested in their quarrel, smoothly shifts the conversation. He recalls hearing that Ian's birthday banquet is to be skipped this year. At this, Thiel's thoughts drift. She remembers how Zender and her aunt used to begin preparations for imperial banquets as early as possible. Dresses would be made a month in advance, the household thrown into a frenzy of preparations. Imperial banquets were always known for their grandeur, so why, she wonders, is Ian's birthday going uncelebrated this year? Rudian, caught in his own thoughts, suddenly realizes something he had never thought to ask before. When is Thiel's birthday? At his question, both Karthus and Ferdy turn to him with dumbfounded expressions. The room grows eerily silent. Rudian, sensing the shift in atmosphere, furrows her brows in confusion. Why did they look like that? Ferdy lets out a sigh, chastising Rudian for failing to read the mood. And then realization strikes Rudian like lightning. His expression shifts from casual curiosity to sudden horror. His mother's death anniversary, Thiel's birthday. Panic seizes him, and he immediately turns to her, his voice filled with urgency as he apologizes. Had he hurt her? Had he reminded her of something painful? But Thiel only smiles, a soft yet bittersweet expression on her face. She tells them that she does not know the exact date of her birth. It was always called an unlucky day, and no one had ever celebrated it. But despite that, she feels happy right now, because for the first time, someone has asked about her birthday. Even for her brothers, she knows that day could never be a joyful one, and yet the fact that they still thought of her makes her heart swell. She then adds, as if speaking to herself, that it must have been during winter. Zender always seemed angrier during that season. At this, Karthus suddenly moves forward, wrapping her in a firm embrace. His voice is steady, unwavering. None of what happened to Lena was Thiel's fault. Not a single part of it was her responsibility. And then, with a quiet but sharp edge in his tone, he adds that if Lena had been alive to hear of this, she would have torn Zender in two, and him as well, for not realizing sooner what had been done to their sister. Thiel seems to enter another world entirely. Zender had always told her that Lena was obedient. Unlike her, Karthus only smiles, brushing a gentle hand over her head. She must make sure that their father does not commit any more sins. After all, he does not want to see their mother again only to be torn into two pieces. Thiel nods. Karthus pats her head once more, calling her a good girl. Rudian and Ferdy do not hesitate to embrace her necks, their arms wrapping around her in a fierce yet silent vow of protection. Later, Thiel is seen running toward Ian. He notices immediately, and warns her not to run like that, but she is far too overjoyed to stop. Reaching him, she declares that she will guide him through the place. Ian watches her closely, noting how vastly different she is now from the moment he had first brought her here. She looks at this house and considers it home. But then, as if struck by a thought, she leans in close, lowering her voice into a whisper. There is worry in her eyes as she asks if something is wrong. She had overheard that his birthday banquet would not be held this year. Ian raises a brow at her cautious tone, asking why she is speaking in such secrecy. Thiel, fidgeting slightly, admits that she was worried someone might hear. Ian chuckles, amused, and calls her a little rascal. He reassures her that the banquet was cancelled by choice, not because anything bad had happened. Thiel exhales, relieved. Ian further explains that he simply does not like being celebrated. She hesitates for a moment before making a suggestion. What if, instead of a grand banquet, he spent his birthday at Asterion? With her and her brothers? Ian pauses, his eyes locking onto hers. He notes the slight blush dusting her cheeks before he asks if she truly means it. Should he really consider it? But before she can even respond, his greatest enemies, Thiel's brothers, intervene. Their expressions are unreadable, their gazes dark and piercing, and their voices, cold as steel, deliver a single unyielding answer. No. The air shifts, growing thick with tension. Their stares are enough to send chills down one's spine. Their warning is silent yet deafening. Ian, realizing the situation, finds himself staring at an unshakable wall of three overprotective brothers, daring him to push further. They silently urge Thiel to retract her own words. But how can she, when she was the one who suggested it? Sensing this, her brothers close in, their protective instincts ignited in shouts at him to get away from their sister. Later in the living room, Ian once again states that he is more than willing to spend his birthday at Asterion. However, Ferdy crosses his arms, raising an eyebrow as he points out that Ian is making a one-sided declaration. Why, of all places, would he choose their mansion to celebrate his birthday? Ian, unfazed, calmly responds that he was invited, by Thiel herself. At this, all eyes turn to Thiel, who stands frozen, caught in the middle of a brewing storm. She fidgets, struggling to find the right words to mend the situation. Finally, she explains that spending a birthday alone is incredibly sad. If she had known her own birthday and had to celebrate it by herself, she would have felt deeply lonely. Ian has absolutely no idea that Thiel doesn't know about his birthday. He's about to say something, probably something dramatic, when Rudian practically slaps a hand over his mouth, eyes wide with horror, hissing that it is forbidden to speak of such things in this house. Ian, now sufficiently alarmed, starts connecting the dots. Meanwhile, Ferdy is busy assuring Thiel that Ian is not lonely at all. Ferdy and Rudian are never going to let Thiel Ian's ship sail. After all, he is the crown prince, and even without friends, he is constantly surrounded by people. Ian, in true theatrical fashion, sighs deeply and claims that no, in fact, he is lonely. He has no friends. He will spend his birthday all alone. Tragic. But instead of asking for a favor like a normal person, Ian decides to make a deal because why not make things more interesting? He turns to Ferdy and reminds him that he is going to have Thiel's dress tailored for an official event. Since that's already happening, Ian wants to send Madame Estella to them in her name. At this, Ferdy nearly chokes on air. Madame Estella, the legendary designer who exclusively creates outfits for royalty. The same woman whose dresses every noble in the kingdom dreams of wearing, only to be cruelly denied. Ferdy has heard that no one knows what she looks like or where she even comes from. It's all a grand mystery. He turns to Ian, suspicious, and asks if he is really sure about this. Ian, looking more serious than ever, confirms that he is absolutely, undeniably 100% sure. Bro is all in for Thiel. Ferdy, still skeptical, questions how Ian can be so confident that Madame Estella will even agree to make Thiel's dress. After all, she only takes commissions from royalty and the highest-ranking nobles. Ian, ever the mastermind, simply reiterates that she does accept requests from those groups. So now the only question is, are they willing to make the deal? Ferdy, after a moment of deep contemplation, considers the fact that a dress from Madame Estella would make Thiel the center of attention at the upcoming luminaries. No other noble family would have anything like it. In the grand scheme of things, entertaining Ian for a few hours on his birthday suddenly doesn't seem like such a terrible trade-off. With a shift in demeanor, he stands up, agrees to the deal, and even expresses that he is honored to spend the crown prince's birthday with him. Ian thanks him, and Thiel, unexpectedly, seems really happy about this whole arrangement. Thiel then turns to Ian, and in a formal tone, refers to Ian as Your Highness. Ian immediately twitches. Why is she calling him that? Thiel explains completely earnestly that since everyone calls him Your Highness, calling him by his name feels a little rude. This apparently is too much for Ian, because his face explodes into a blush. Stammering, he insists that she can just call him man. Or whatever she wants. Just not Your Highness, bro doesn't feel like hiding it anymore. Man, he is cute. Thiel, bothered, agrees. Meanwhile, outside the royal carriage, Rudian eyes Ian very suspiciously and asks, point blank, if he is planning to make Thiel the crown princess. Ian, utterly exasperated, reassures him that he has absolutely no intention of doing so. There is no need to worry. He is well aware of what it means to be the crown princess, and he has no plans to make Thiel suffer like that. Of course, this response does not stop Thiel's brothers from being extremely curious, especially after Thiel awakened her powers. Ferdy, ever the cautious one, defends their wariness. After all, it would be reckless not to be cautious in a situation like this. But before the conversation can escalate, there comes a sudden rushing sound as Thiel barrels towards Ian, holding out a carefully wrapped box. Inside, a pie. A very delicious pie, according to Thiel, and one she absolutely wanted Ian to try. Ian, momentarily overwhelmed by this grand gesture, pats her head. So that's why she was rushing to the kitchen earlier. Then, suddenly remembering something, Ian tilts his head and asks Thiel about a very mysterious cushion he found in his subspace. He has never seen it before, and it is extremely decorated, with ribbons no less. Thiel blinks. She has no idea what he is talking about. The cushion was already there when she arrived. Ian, now even more confused, describes it in greater detail. But Thiel, looking increasingly puzzled, thinks that back then there were no decorations on it. Before this mystery can be solved, the scene shifts to the kingdom's castle. Inside, the king is having a very intense discussion with Alpheus. The king states, rather ominously, that it is time for Alpheus to finally reveal something. Alpheus, looking unimpressed, reminds the king that the luminaries is just around the corner. He can meet her there, but the king, evidently not in the mood for patience, brings up the legend of Asterion and Nestian. At this, Alpheus flinches. Then, suddenly furious, Alpheus snaps that this so-called legend has nothing to do with the crown prince. The king tries to calm him down, insisting that he isn't saying they need to act right now. They can wait. But Alpheus, looking like he's ready to throw hands, demands to know if the king has forgotten, because Alpheus hasn't. He knows the truth of that day, and because of that he refuses to let his granddaughter become a victim. The king, now equally furious, raises his voice. How can Alpheus say such things? But Alpheus yells back, asking if the king really thinks he doesn't understand what an imprint entails. Because he does, and he will never allow his granddaughter to be bound by such shackles. The king, realizing things have escalated dramatically, takes a deep breath and asks Alpheus to calm down. After all, Ian himself has no intention of binding Thiel to these shackles. Alpheus, after a long pause, sighs and apologizes. The king, regaining his composure, admits that he just finds it remarkable how much things have changed. The boy who used to be alone all the time is now so lively, and he believes it's all because of Thiel. Alpheus, still skeptical, gives the king a long look. Then, in a quiet but pointed voice, he asks if still have no intention of revealing the truth of that day. The next day, Rudian is practically bouncing with excitement. He cannot wait to see the dress that Madame Estella will create for Thiel. The mere thought of seeing her shine in that dress at the luminaries makes him giddy. Thiel, however, tilts her head in confusion. Luminaries? What is that? Rudian, ever the enthusiastic storyteller, explains that Luminaries is a grand festival held every 3 years in honor of the god of light, Lust. It's an extravagant event filled with fun activities, and all the noble hairs attend. Basically, it's a very big deal. At this, Thiel's curiosity grows, and she asks if Rowan and Aunt Cornella will be coming as well. Ferdy, after a brief moment of thought, figures that Rowan probably will. After all, she even showed up when she was just 4 years old, being carried in her nanny arms. I just hate Rowan so much. Thiel, upon hearing this, immediately goes pale. If Aunt Cornella is coming, then that means her cruel grandfather, Zender, will also be there. The idea of seeing those people again makes her stomach turn. But at the same time, she really wants to go to the festival. Since the day she was born, the only time she has ever left the house was when she came to Asterion. She is so cute, someone go and give her a hug, man. The outside world is a mystery to her, and she desperately wants to see it. Seeing her expression darken, Rudian leans in, eyes sharp. Is she worried about running into Nestchen? Thiel gives a small nod. Rudian, in response, winks and confidently declares that if Nestchen and his people dare come near Thiel, he will burn them all to ashes. Ferdy, ever the pragmatic one, points out that while accidents during the event might be problematic, burning their carriage might not be a bad idea. The two brothers, in perfect unison, assure Thiel that as long as she is with them, no one will be able to get close to her, much less hurt her. Thiel, taking a moment to consider, realizes that they're right. She is an Asterian now. Not even Zender will be able to touch her. Her family will protect her. And with that thought, her excitement for the festival skyrockets. Later that day in her room, Thiel finds herself unbearably hot. Why is it so warm? And why is everything around her so big? Wait. She looks down at herself. She has fur. Oh no. She has somehow transformed into her beast form. And the worst part? She has no idea how this happened, and absolutely no clue how to change back. Panic sets in. She tries her best to return to her human form, straining with all her might, but nothing happens. In this form, she can't even talk. Desperate, she spots the bell on her nightstand. If she can just reach it, she moves towards it, stretches out her little paws, pulls the ring, and immediately tumbles off the bed. Just then, Rhea enters the room. She stops, blinks. On the floor before her is a tiny, adorable ball of fur. Rhea says, picking Thiel up, why she is in this form. Thiel, unable to speak, lets out a pitiful little cry. Rhea, being the ever-understanding maid, immediately pieces the situation together. Thiel must not be able to talk in her beast form yet, and judging by the way she's struggling, she probably can't change back either. She asks if she should take her to her father. Thiel's ears perk up. Yes, please. Rhea chuckles and nods to go. At Karthus's office, the man takes one look at Thiel in her tiny beast form and immediately decides she is the cutest thing he has ever seen. Trying to keep a straight face, he asks why she can't return to her human form. But then he notices her tail wagging. Oh, it clicks for him. He reassures her that it's likely because she's still too young. If someone isn't used to transforming, it can sometimes happen unintentionally. Usually, it resolves itself in a day or two. Thiel, upon hearing this, wilts. She had really hoped this would be over quickly. Why does everything have to take so long? And to make matters worse, it's so much hotter than usual. The fur isn't helping. She remembers that once Rhea explained to her that the mansion belongs to Black Panthers with flame powers, so it's naturally warmer than anywhere else. Normally, it's fine. But now that Thiel has transformed, it's unbearable. Karthus checks the time. Oh, it's already time for his meeting. With zero hesitation, he picks up Thiel and takes her with him. At the meeting, Karthus apologizes for being late, explaining that there was a small issue with his daughter. The moment the council members see Thiel, all work-related thoughts evaporate. They immediately fall in love with how adorable she looks. Some of them even start reminiscing about their own daughters. Meanwhile, Thiel is melting, not just from embarrassment, but from the heat. Karthus's hands are warm, and in this beast form, it feels like she's being roasted alive. Alpheus, not immune to cuteness, is also completely distracted. He cannot focus. This meeting, it is doomed. Later, once the meeting miraculously ends, Alpheus suddenly announces that he is going to call an artist. Why? Because he must paint a great portrait of his granddaughter in this form. Nobody questions this. Alpheus then approaches Thiel, desperate to hold her. Karthus, being the responsible parent, insists that Thiel is uncomfortable and should not be passed around like a toy. Alpheus scoffs. Uncomfortable? Karthus himself has been holding her this entire time. What hypocrisy! Thiel, exhausted and overheated, suddenly finds herself in her grandfather's arms, and immediately regrets it. His hands are even hotter than her father's. Alpheus, noticing her hesitation, grows dramatically distressed. Did he do something to make her sad? Thiel, unable to speak, simply pats his chest in an attempt to reassure him. This, of course, completely backfires. Alpheus, misunderstanding, gets overwhelmed with emotion. He believes Thiel has forgiven him. Meanwhile, Karthus, watching this entire scene unfold, sighs and finally asks for his daughter back. But before Alpheus can hand her over, Ferdy and Rudian suddenly burst into the room, faces filled with urgency. At the front gate, Wolfgang's carriage has arrived. Wish had family like this. Daddy issues just got triggered. Crying, Ferdy and Rudian exchange glances before turning to Karthus, asking if he has called for Oliver. Karthus shakes his head. explaining that he has merely informed their aunt about Thiel's existence. The two brothers, still playing with Thiel, are taken aback when they realize that their aunt has come all on her own. Alfie, standing nearby, suggests that since they are already here, they should go and greet their aunt properly. He insists that they take Thiel along and introduce her to Oliver, their cousin. Thiel's small hands clutch onto the fabric of Ferdy's sleeve as she listens. It is her first time meeting Oliver, and the thought of facing a stranger in this unfamiliar state makes her uneasy. Just as Ferdy is about to voice his guess that Thiel must dislike the idea, Oliver suddenly rushes inside the house, her excitement spilling over like an uncontained storm. Liking her energy though, Oliver's sharp gaze sweeps across the room, meeting the same familiar boring faces of Ferdy and Rudian. They are unremarkable to her, as always, but the moment her eyes land on Thiel, they light up with unrestrained delight. Unlike the usual stoic or reserved reactions people have towards newcomers, Oliver's enthusiasm is boundless. She all but exclaims that this is Thiel, their little cousin. Ferdy, ever the realist, cautions her that Thiel is shy around new people. But Oliver, utterly uninterested in such warnings, only finds Thiel more endearing. Without hesitation, she expresses her strong desire to take Thiel with her. Ferdy scoffs at her ridiculous statement, dismissing it outright. But Oliver counters with a firm stance, questioning why it should be considered absurd when she, too, is an Asterian. Before the argument can escalate, Alpheus interjects, instructing them to take their discussion elsewhere. He has important work to attend to, specifically, finding a painter skilled enough to create a great portrait of Thiel. The grandfather has his priorities set straight. Oliver, momentarily distracted, announces that her mother was absolutely overjoyed upon learning that Thiel was alive. Ferdy takes a moment to consider this. It makes sense. His mother and his aunt were extremely close. Of course, she would react this way. Oliver goes on to recount how, upon being told that Thiel was here, she had insisted on coming immediately. When no one allowed her, she had rolled on the ground in protest, for 3 days straight. With a gleam in her eye, Oliver then turns to Ferdy, asking if she can hold Thiel. Ferdy's response is a sharp scoff, as if the very idea is preposterous. He pointedly asks if Thiel is some sort of object for Oliver to carry around. But Oliver, unbothered by his skepticism, widens her eyes in determination, declaring that she will be incredibly careful. She promises to hold Thiel as lightly as a feather. Rudian, unimpressed, remarks that Oliver will only end up dropping her. Oliver, taking great offense at the comment, bristles with rage. She looks just about ready to devour Rudian whole. Meanwhile, Thiel watches this chaotic exchange unfold before her. Though Oliver's approach is rough, it is not mean-spirited. She can sense that Oliver is not a bad person at all. Seeing how minor disputes arise yet hold no real malice, Thiel makes a decision. She will go to Oliver herself. The moment Thiel moves towards her, Oliver's entire expression changes. She practically radiates joy, her happiness undeniable. As soon as Thiel is within reach, Oliver introduces herself with pride, stating her full name, Oliver Wolfgang, and emphasizing that she is Thiel's cousin. A gentle breeze brushes past Thiel, carrying a refreshing coolness with it. She immediately notices it. Oliver's body exudes a pleasant cold sensation. Drawn to the soothing contrast against the surrounding warmth, Thiel instinctively moves closer. Oliver, overwhelmed by the gesture, is practically shining with joy. Man, she looks like that extroverted friend who is friends with the whole world. Ferdy and Rudian, however, are at a complete loss. They stare in disbelief at the scene before them. Neither of them can comprehend why Thiel, who has always remained distant and reserved, has taken such a liking to Oliver. Rudian voices his bewilderment, noting that Oliver's entire body is made of muscle. If anyone were to hug her, it would surely feel like embracing solid rock. Yet what shocks them even more is what happens next. Thiel, for the first time, lets out a soft, pleased sound, a quiet purr. Ferdy and Rudian freeze. Never in all their time with her has Thiel ever made such a noise. They are left in utter defeat, struggling to grasp the reality before them. Oliver, smug and pleased, finally speaks again. She turns to the two brothers, calling them black dumb panthers without hesitation. She then explains her theory. Thiel is responding positively to her because her body is naturally cool. Since Thiel has the traits of a snow leopard, she must be accustomed to cold environments. Being in this hot climate must have been difficult for her all along. Ferdy's expression shifts slightly. He hadn't considered this before. Thiel never mentioned anything about struggling with the heat. Oliver admits that she only realized this fact after meeting Rowan at a tea party. At first she had thought Rowan was overreacting when she kept complaining about the heat. But she later discovered that Rowan was telling the truth. Theo, thinking about it, realizes that Rowan must have felt unbearably hot. Unlike her, Rowan is a full-blooded snow leopard with thick fur. Ferdy, finally addressing Theo directly, asks why she never told them if she was feeling overheated. Theo, in her quiet way, simply thinks that it was never unbearable enough to mention. It was something she could tolerate. Ferdy, struck with guilt, immediately calls for ice cream. At this, Oliver's eyes sparkle with excitement. She demands that her portion be doubled. Rudian comments that if Oliver keeps eating at this rate, she will soon turn into a pig. And just like that, another fight breaks out between the two. Meanwhile, Ferdy turns back to Theo, gently asking if she has ever had ice cream before. Theo's eyes widen with curiosity. The idea of ice cream is entirely new to her. To her, it is not just a simple treat, it is an entirely new experience, something to be discovered. Elsewhere at the castle, Cedric is watching as Ian carefully writes a letter. Curious, Cedric asks if Ian is writing to Madame Estella. Ian nods, confirming it. Cedric then inquires whether the carrier pigeon is ready to deliver the message. Ian, however, is focused on something else. He has decided to gift Theo new clothes. But Cedric raises a concern. Madame Estella only makes clothes for royalty and nobility. With the crown princess selection currently underway, involving her might stir unnecessary problems. Ian, unwavering, dismisses the concern. He questions why it should matter when all he wants is to give a proper gift. He is fully aware that troublesome rumors will spread. But he also knows that if the right person clarifies the situation, everything will be resolved. More than anything, Ian is thinking of Theo's words. She had asked him if he wants to celebrate his birthday with her. It struck him then, his birthdays had always been the same. A grand, chaotic banquet filled with pretentious nobles, a hollow gathering where he stood alone in the midst of false laughter and meaningless exchanges. He despised it. That was why he canceled this year's banquet. And yet, a child who does not even know her own birthday had worried about others before herself. That is why he wants to give Theo the best gift possible. Because, for the first time, someone has given him warmth. The next day, Theo finally regains her human form. She expresses her gratitude to Oliver, explaining that she had been unable to undo her transformation before, but thanks to Oliver she was able to return to normal. Without wasting a second, Oliver throws herself at Theo, pulling her into a tight embrace. Now that she can see Theo in her human form, she finds her even cuter than before. Overcome with adoration, Oliver begins peppering Theo with kisses and eagerly asks if there's anything she wants. She is more than willing to give her anything her heart desires. Then an idea strikes her. What if Theo comes to live with her? She dramatically announces that she will give Theo the biggest and best room in her house. Rudian, overhearing this, raises an eyebrow and questions whether the best room in the Wolfgang mansion doesn't belong to their uncle. Oliver, with all the confidence in the world, declares that it doesn't matter. She is already planning on kicking him out. After all, their father is old now and doesn't need a good room. Such a great idea. She proved she is Rudian's cousin after all. Theo, on the other hand, is a baby and must have the best. Theo, taken aback by the extravagant offer, hesitantly insists that it's too much. Ferdy, standing beside her, reassures her not to worry. He won't let Oliver take her away no matter what. Amid the commotion, Theo timidly asks if she can feel Oliver's breeze again, as it was incredibly fresh and cool. Oliver is utterly smitten, unable to comprehend how adorably Theo speaks. She sighs, wishing that Theo were her real sister. In her excitement, Oliver attempts to walk gracefully, as if trying to impress someone, much like a girl attempting to charm her crush. However, she miscalculates her step and trips forward in a grand display of clumsiness. Sensing the danger, Rudian hastily activates his energy to catch her. But in his haste, he overcompensates, releasing more energy than necessary. A moment later, the entire room is in shambles. Debris scatters everywhere, and the servants are left staring at the disaster with horrified expressions. Oliver, completely guilty by the mess, blames it all on Theo's unbearable cuteness. She had simply lost control. Rudian, just as shameless, insists that he only acted because he was trying to protect Theo. Meanwhile, Theo, startled by the sudden explosion of energy, transforms into her beast form and clings tightly to Ferdy for security. Ferdy scoffs, glancing at Oliver and Rudian in disdain. Now, because of them, the servants will have even more work to do. However, Oliver, undeterred, quickly devises another plan. She decides that the problem is this cramped space. She simply can't resist Teal's cuteness when they're confined indoors. With that, she proposes they go outside. She even promises to get Thiel something really delicious. Thiel, curious yet hesitant, softly admits that she has never been outside before. Oliver is utterly horrified. With a look of pure shock, she demands to know if Alpheus and Carthus have been keeping her locked up. Thiel quickly tries to clear up the misunderstanding, explaining that it's not like that. She's simply shy around new people. Oliver breathes a sigh of relief, reassured that Thiel isn't being confined due to her overwhelming cuteness. However, Thiel can't help but recall the time when her grandfather, Zender, truly did lock her away, but she doesn't feel the need to mention that now. Instead, she hesitates before voicing her thoughts. Oliver had said she would take her somewhere nice. If it was really okay, then she would like to go outside. Hearing this, Oliver lights up. She excitedly declares that it's settled, but then Thiel pauses, realizing something. Would Thiel's father even allow it? Oliver quickly brushes the concern aside, brimming with confidence. Of course he would. She already has the perfect plan. The scene shifts to Carthus, who is just about to reject the idea outright. But before he can even get the words out, Oliver dramatically throws herself onto the ground, rolling and wailing as if the world is ending. Her cries of protest echo through the halls, nearly deafening everyone around. She insists that she must take Thiel with her. Carthus tries to reason with her, saying that Thiel cannot go outside just like this. Her powers are still unstable. But before he can finish speaking, Oliver, now in full tantrum mode, shrieks at the top of her lungs that she and the others can take care of her just fine. Her voice is so loud it almost gives Carthus an ear bleed. Ferdy, who had been watching in horror, hurriedly covers Thiel's ears, telling her that she absolutely does not need to learn such behavior. Then Thiel herself finally speaks up. She looks at her father and softly tells him that she heard a festival was coming up. She really wants to experience it. However, she is also worried. She doesn't want anything bad to happen. Carthus is taken aback. He hadn't realized that Thiel was looking forward to the festival. Even her brothers are surprised. Without hesitation, they immediately vow to protect her. They promise that they will take the Asterian knights with them to ensure her safety. Carthus, still hesitant, points out that Thiel is the center of attention. If they all move together, they will stand out even more. But Oliver, once again, has a solution. The scene shifts. Ferdy, standing beside a large basket, asks Thiel if it feels too stuffy. Thiel, now in her beast form, is curled up inside the basket. Oliver confidently reassures them that it's perfectly fine. She is sending a gentle breeze into the basket to keep Thiel cool. She then proudly exclaims that this is the most genius idea she has ever had. A snow leopard inside a basket. It's a combination too cute for the world to handle. Ferdy, however, only sees one thing. A kitten being carried off into the wild. Rudian, smirking, turns to Thiel and asks if she has ever heard of the fairy tale about Little Red Riding Hood. Meanwhile, Thiel peeks out from the basket, her curious eyes scanning the bustling streets. She sees people, large buildings, and signs engraved with letters. Sparkling desserts are visible through the glass windows of nearby shops. Everything looks like a dream. Oh my God, it's such a bittersweet moment. Soon, they arrive at their destination. Oliver eagerly orders 5 slices of strawberry cake and 5 raspberry milk drinks. Ferdy, shocked, asks just how many times she has been to this bakery. Oliver grins and casually replies that she has been coming here for years. She even has a private room now. Rudian scoffs, calling her ridiculous. If she wanted to eat cake so badly, she could just do it at home. But Oliver dismisses his remark with a flick of her hand, stating that the atmosphere of a bakery is completely different from eating at the mansion. Yes, this is the argument I present when people catch me more at a library rather than my room. It's just the vibe, you know. Then, turning back to Thiel, she gently asks if she can transform into her human form. With a soft nod, Thiel shifts back. As soon as she does, a bright smile spreads across her face. She looks around in wonder, taking in the beauty of the bakery. Everything feels so new and exciting. Oliver, seeing this, is overjoyed. Even Ferdy can't deny how genuinely excited Thiel looks. Thiel, unable to contain herself, exclaims that she's really happy. But just as she does, something unexpected happens. Her light powers begin to glow again. Thiel starts to feel uneasy as the lights begin to flicker on their own. At the same time, Ferdy informs the others that it seems like the waiter has arrived with their cake. Acting quickly, Oliver urges Thiel to hide, and she takes cover under the table just as the waiter enters the private room with their order. However, despite their efforts to appear natural, all 3 of them, Oliver, Ferdy, and Rudian, fail miserably at acting normal. They look so dumb cute. Their stiff movements and overly casual expressions make it painfully obvious that they are hiding something. Under the table, Thiel struggles to keep herself still. She knows that her light ability has a tendency to activate whenever she is extremely happy, and right now, the thrill of the situation makes it difficult to suppress. She focuses all her energy on keeping the light inside, even going so far as to force unpleasant thoughts into her mind. She recalls memories of Zender, hoping the negative emotions will help dampen her energy. As soon as his image crosses her mind, the light immediately disappears. Once she regains control, she softly asks the others if she can come out now. Since the light has finally settled, she cautiously emerges from her hiding spot and apologizes to them. She explains that sometimes her light energy leaks out when she experiences strong emotions, especially happiness. Ferdy reassures her that it's not a problem at all, and even if she makes a mistake, both brothers are more than willing to protect her. Oliver, adding to the sentiment, tells her that from his perspective, it simply means she is happy, which is a good thing. Thiel finds their words comforting. They assure her that no one else will be entering the room, so she can eat without worry now. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a messenger pigeon perches on the window of Madame Estella. This particular pigeon is one of many she had gifted to various imperial and royal families long ago. These special birds have the ability to find her no matter where she is, which allows her to receive commissions from nobles and royals even though she constantly travels and has no permanent residence. Today, the letter she receives is from Ian, who has requested her to make a dress for a young lady. As she reads his words, a knowing smile crosses her lips. She muses that Ian is still young. Perhaps he has fallen in love. Deciding not to keep an excited boy waiting, she quickly pens a reply and hands it to another pigeon, sending her response back to him. Back at the bakery, inside the private room, a sudden knock on the door breaks their moment of peace. Oliver immediately speaks up, reminding everyone that no one is supposed to enter until they leave. However, the door opens anyway, and to their collective shock, Ian steps inside. The three of them are left speechless at his unexpected appearance. Ian, addressing them casually, explains that he originally went to Asterion, but they informed him that the others were at this bakery. Not wanting to draw attention to himself, he did his best to conceal his appearance before coming. However, the situation outside is turning problematic. Cedric and Ian's knights are currently standing outside, silently begging for Ian to leave quickly, as the chef has been eyeing them suspiciously. Oliver is the first to break the silence, speaking directly to Ian. She tells him in no uncertain terms that today she is on a date with her cousin and asks if he could stop interfering. Rudian, leaning back lazily, comments on how Ian has been fixated on Asterion estate lately. Ferdy, also finding this strange, notes that Ian's interest has been excessive. Ian, unfazed by their remarks, claims that he hasn't changed at all. Instead, he insists that it is they who have become overly sensitive ever since Thiel arrived. His words leave Ferdy momentarily dumbfounded. He tries to explain that if things feel different, then surely it isn't just them. It must mean Ian is also part of the problem. As always, the one unaffected by the tension is Thiel. She happily chimes in, expressing how much she enjoys meeting Ian. Meanwhile, Ferdy, now rubbing his temples in frustration, makes Thiel wonder if her brother and sister dislike Ian. From her perspective, Ian is incredibly kind, he takes care of her, and he even sparkles when she looks at him. She finds it impossible to believe that anyone could dislike him. Surely they must like him as well, right? Ian, brushing past their complaints, brings up the matter of their studies. He points out that none of them have been attending the academy lately, and if they continue at this rate, the vacation will arrive before they even realize it. He encourages them to return, assuring them that he is more than capable of taking care of Thiel while they do so. Thiel, concerned, turns to Ferdy and asks if going back to the academy means she won't be able to see them anymore. Ferdy quickly reassures her that she can visit any time, and if she writes him a letter, he will come to see her. Hearing this, Thiel immediately brightens up. She becomes eager to study, determined to learn how to write letters so she can communicate with him. Oliver, surprised by her enthusiasm, asks if she doesn't know how to write yet. Thiel explains that back in Neshchen, she wasn't taught until she was 6. Zyra deliberately withheld her education because she didn't want Thiel to surpass Rowan. Hearing this, Oliver firmly decides that she will teach Thiel in an enjoyable and engaging way. Meanwhile, Ferdy turns back to Ian and directly asks the real reason behind his visit. It is obvious that he didn't come here just to chat. Ian acknowledges this and gets straight to the point. Rumors have been spreading. More importantly, there are whispers circulating about their family. Word has gotten out about a hidden legend related to the ability of light, one that suggests the Leopard clan will soon regain its original power.